In a mountainous setting with several trees and a vast lake, a voice calls out to someone named Wade. It then continues asking what he's doing as the scene shifts to show more of the forest. A man with gray hair and a patchy beard is the source of the voice, and he asks what the boy keeps staring at. Wade, seeming to come out of a trance and still a bit dazed, loudly asks with a tone of confusion about his father. With a casual tone and placing his hand on the boy's head, the man says that the kid barely even knows his own father anymore. As he walks, the man tells Wade to come help pull in the net and see how their fishing went, finishing by saying he'd show off his real skills. The boy then runs toward his father, saying he's on his way. Through a sequence of fun scenes, they fish, deal with crabs, choke on food, and carve a picture of the two of them on a piece of wood. After a long day, the sun finally begins to set. The two of them sit atop the boat, enjoying a moment between father and son. Some movement in the water catches the boy's attention, and he looks over. Wade exclaims that he just saw a red carp. Yelling for the carp not to run away, he jumps into the water, leaving his father stunned. The boy finds it strange that the carp suddenly vanished. He quickly wonders why there aren't any fish in the water at all. He also finds it odd that he can't move after entering that place. Even though he tries, he continues sinking, thinking that nothing is out of the question. In the end, he begged his father to save him several times before losing consciousness. Suddenly, the boy wakes up disoriented, talking about his father. Two figures look at Wade, who is standing but tied up, and the one on the right asks if he's finally awake. The terminal identifies this person as Lai Tu, an old man with 2 scars on his face, who asks the boy if he misses his father. Moving his own hands, the boy asks what they are doing to him. The old man says that Master Zhang is still just as clever, claiming that Wade would lead them, but in reality, he's only bait to lure that water monster. This old man continues saying they were keeping watch over him, and the boy was still sound asleep. Wade, looking down, says it must have all just been another dream. The boy reflects that it's been a month since he came to this world, and that the original owner of this body got sick, and he came into this world to take his place. He goes on to say that the original body's owner lost his mother early and only had his father until 3 months ago, but the feelings in his heart are... He pauses briefly. Suddenly, we see a scene of the young man bedridden in a modern hospital, ending his thoughts saying they are feelings he never had. He continues by saying that in this past month, he still hasn't gotten used to the former owner's social circle, and as a result became a target for liars and bait for monsters. During this time, the boy discovered that this world has different kinds of supernatural powers. What he learned is that humans can cultivate techniques to reach unimaginable realms. Those who step into those paths are called warriors. As for the creatures in this world, he says they too can evolve through cultivation methods, and they are called... He pauses briefly. That other young man yells that something is coming, with a serious look on his face. The old man shouts that it's a water monster, seeming scared, worried. The same one who exclaimed thinks this isn't a water monster half the height of a human. This massive creature dives near them, while the desperate old man says the thing is way too big. Wade says it's coming straight at them now. Master Zhang plants one foot, seemingly getting into position, saying the moment has finally arrived. That stance he assumes is what the terminal describes as a decade of intense study that went unnoticed, while the young man speaks of so many years leading up to this moment. A world-shaking attack ends the system's line, and Zhang says this punch holds 10 years of power and asks if the monster can take it. Suddenly, the creature bursts from the water with its mouth open, ready to face that tremendous punch. It bites the boat in half, seemingly swallowing young Zhang and breaking their vessel apart, throwing the other two a short distance away. Right after the monster's attack that split the boat, the old man nervously laughs as the two remaining barely hang on. In despair, the old man shouts that he can't die now, seeing this situation. He looks in Wade's direction, still ranting in terror. Without thinking twice, the old man strikes the boy's hand with his knife. The young man fell into the water after being kicked by Lai Tu, sinking along with the wreckage. Holding his breath, and with the wound in his hand, he tries to call for help. With no other option, the rope is bitten by the boy so he might at least have a chance to survive. Attracted by the cut Wade received from the old man, the creature approaches while the boy tries to escape. Saying he can't do it, he begins to lose vision as he runs out of air, ending with the thought that he wouldn't be able to go on, seeing the bubbles from what little air was left in his lungs. Suddenly, he hears his father's voice shouting his name and telling him to wake up. Opening his eyes, the young man thinks of his father. With the image of the man reaching out to help, he thinks it would be great if what he's seeing were real. Their hands almost touch underwater as the young man continues trying to reach him. Wade then manages to grab his arm, revealing it to be the piece of wood they had drawn on earlier. He then climbs onto the boat, breathing again as he comes out of the water. That was his father's boat, the one the young man had mentioned. Suddenly, a strike from beneath the water begins to rise. Unable to hold on, the boy loses his footing and falls. In shock, he screams, reaching out in an attempt to get back. That monstrosity approaches Wade, watching him as he slowly sinks. The young man thinks he gave it his best, apologizing to his father, still reaching toward the place where a light shines. Wade hits his back on the bottom of the area, with the creature hovering above him. The monster's eyes turn to Wade, its jaws slightly opening. That mouth finishes opening as the creature speeds toward the boy. He seems to have already lost consciousness, with the wound on his hand still open. Suddenly, a box appears above Wade, with watering glyphs surrounding it, and the terminal announces that ZED activation is in progress, with potential to awaken water manipulation. The urn above him continues to emit that bluish aura, and the system says a new skill awakening has been acquired, the water monkey, and finally announces that the body is being healed. Wade slowly opens his eyes, confused about what just happened. He wonders how he didn't die. With the memory in his head that he was swallowed by the monster underwater, remembering that he was still in the same place, he starts to move in a panic, realizing he's still there. The young man feels as if he's walking on land even though he's underwater, as if the resistance had vanished. Water flow control skill acquired. The terminal details, stating that at the cost of physical strength, he can manipulate it. Wade is confused about this new talent of his, even mentioning his breathing, coming to the realization that he can breathe underwater, even noticing that his wounds have been healed, especially the one on his hand. That monster that attacked him earlier approaches from behind the boy. Wade turns and sees the creature opening its mouth to try and bite him again. The young man raises his arms, scared and afraid of what might happen. Slowly opening his eyes after hearing the noise, he feels confused that nothing happened. Wade wonders if the young man created those chains, as the monster remains trapped by his water magic. Still trying to understand, the boy says it might be like one of those systems mentioned in shows. He then concludes that in water, he has no more limits and can even control it. Suddenly, the chains around the monster are undone. Wade realizes that their duration is limited. After being released, the creature charges toward the boy with its mouth wide open. Quickly, the boy leaps over the monster's bite, dodging the attack. Looking down at the creature from above, he says that continuing like this won't work, wondering if there's a way to subdue it. The system informs that the command seal skill has been obtained and explains that by writing ancient runes and using the user as a medium, a contract can be made with a beast. Wade looks at the message and says, "That's it," with a smile on his face. Without waiting, the monster charges from below, opening its jaws toward the boy. As it approaches, the creature stares at the youth, ready to bite him. The terminal displays water flow control, and Wade says he needs to restrain the monster first, sending a current to bind his opponent. Apparently, when the ability makes contact with the creature, he is able to pin it in place. However, it doesn't last long, and the monster breaks free without much effort. The young man dodges the incoming attack, narrowly escaping, still remaining close. Red lightning bursts from the boy's hand, indicating he activated the command seal, a perfect opportunity to counterattack. Wade places his hand on the monster's forehead, landing a direct hit. With a violent motion, the creature writhes from the blow, and the boy shouts, trying to hold on. His left eye slowly begins to turn red, with visible scales forming, and he says this has now become a battle of willpower. The color intensifies progressively, and the pupil becomes more reptilian. Eventually, he's left with a black eye with orange details, and Wade wonders if he's going to fail. For a moment, he sees what appears to be the boy lying on a hospital bed connected to machines. The magical symbols on his hand glow brighter as he screams that he wants to live. Wade says that the creature is nothing more than a beast, and it will submit to him, pouring all his power into the creature, which seems to be affected by the blow. Still during the night, the movements in the water appear to calm down. Dragging himself out, the young man manages to escape that nightmare he went through. Lying down on the ground, exhausted and with his eyes closed, he says he's alive, relieved. Slowly, the monster approaches Wade, who is lying near the shore. Liang Ku sits down, staring at the creature, and says it was obvious he would handle that beast. The terminal reveals that the young man is its master, displaying information about the crocodile. The boy tells the monster to stay put and that he'll call it if something happens. After taming the creature, a mental connection was formed between Wade and the crocodile, allowing them to communicate and summon each other at any time. Placing a hand on his stomach, hungry, he says he needs to go home, find something to eat, and get some sleep. Fortunately, the merged memories include the layout of the area, and he concludes it's not too far. Meanwhile, the creature slowly begins to move through the water after the conversation with Wade. Reaching a cave, the crocodile enters a place filled with water lilies. In a city, Lai Tu, having survived the attack, calls a man named Butler Zheng, saying that this was the way. Reaffirming it, the old man says to follow him as they continue walking. Two people are talking, and one of them asks who those people are and why they're going to Wade's house, while the other replies that they must have had some trouble, since they're from the Zhao family. A young man with black hair named Li Bo overhears the conversation and wonders about Wade. He comes to the conclusion that the kid must have gotten into some trouble. The other group arrives at the boy's house, the one everyone's been talking about. In Lai Tu's mind, if Liang Ku didn't survive, then all of his possessions belong to him now, which would be a way to make up for the failed mission. He also puts all the blame for the failure on that Zhang, calling him weak. Suddenly, the old man kicks the door, knocking it down and clearing the way for the others. Wade was sitting on the bed, looking like he had just woken up, and Lai Tu, pointing at him, screams and asks how he's still alive. The young man then asks what they're doing there. In the boy's house, Lai Tu points a finger at him, unable to believe he survived. With a terrifying tone, Zheng asks what he means by alive or dead and wants to know why he's been handling everything so recklessly. The old man says this is Liang Ku with a nervous tone. Surprised, the butler asks if it's really him and says it's tremendous luck that he's still alive. Lei Tu comments that living for thousands of years is a major disaster. Zheng orders everyone to take Wade. When grabbed, the boy asks what they plan to do. That man punches the boy in the stomach, telling him to stop talking nonsense. He then asks what Wade is going to do, saying that Master Zhao requested Master Zhang to subdue the water creature for the good of the citizens. Pointing at him, Lai Tu goes on to say that he worked with the beast to kill the martial artist and made the Zhao family lose a lot of money and endangered the city. The young man says it was clearly the old man who set up that trap and used Wade as bait for the creature. Getting close to the boy's face, the man says he framed Zhang and had the audacity to come back, calling him arrogant and a monster. Liang Ku reflects that in his past life, he was called that for being a solitary and independent person. In his memory, people say that someone without parents is just someone who likes to steal things. Even at school, people laughed at him without even trying to hide it. He looked at that situation with seriousness. One of the kids who did that said he was giving him a monster-like stare, and if he was so tough, he should fight him. Suddenly, Wade threw a punch and injured the boy without thinking twice. Liang Ku continues in his thoughts that he was called that way because he was considered ruthless. Even if his abilities are at risk of being exposed, the young man won't back down without a fight, stating that's not his style. Quickly freeing himself from those holding him, the boy headbutts the man in the stomach. Right after that, Wade knocks over a basin of water, and the old man stumbles to the side. Lying on the ground, the boy says that even if he becomes the monster that Lai Tu claims he is, Liang Ku concludes by saying he'll take a piece of him. And as he says this, the water from the basin starts to swirl around the boy's arm. The man comments that Wade still has the nerve to move and turns to the butler suggesting they tie the boy up and take him to the Zhao family. Lai Tu whispers in Zheng's ear that they're short on people to handle a certain task, and he also thinks the orphan boy is perfect for the job. After hearing that, the man makes an offer. If the boy agrees to be Master Zhao's adopted son, he'll let it all go, otherwise he'll break Wade's leg. Hearing everything happening outside, people comment that it seems the family's been taking in a lot of children lately, and they vanish without a trace. Someone also yells near the crowd, asking who dares to threaten little Wade. Accompanied by Lei Bo, the village chief Lai enters, saying he's still alive. The butler says this old fool. Clearly irritated, he says he's a high-ranking official of the Great Shun, and asks if he plans to attack a public servant of his. Jane just mutters nervously, "You." Interrupting the butler, the old man says they should show more respect for his position with Master Zhao, and if he keeps talking, he might collapse right there. Seeing the whole situation, Jane just calls him a stupid old man, concluding that he won't argue with him today, and that as soon as he reports this to Master Zhao, this matter will not be over. Then, everyone except the villagers leaves, with the butler calling the others to follow him. Lei Tu, before leaving, says he's just like his father, ungrateful. They then leave, with only the three of them left inside the house. The village chief comments that there are some things Wade should avoid if possible. The young man thanks him and says he'll keep that in mind. Liang Ku stands up as the others leave and are told to disperse by Lai. Looking at his own hand with magic flowing through it, the boy says that this kind of thing might start happening more often in the future, and that the village chief may have saved him once, but he can't keep doing that forever. Clenching his fist tightly, the young man says he needs to be more proactive and that this system is his opportunity. The terminal shows that he obtained a water essence and a bit of beast evolution, leaving him confused about what that means. Wade returns to the lake where he found that monster. Placing 2 fingers on his head, the young man thinks that after taming the Taihua crocodile, he can summon a kind of mental connection at any time. As he performs that motion, the water takes on a slightly lighter shade of blue. Liang Ku watches as it happens. A stream of water rises from the glow as if something large is about to emerge. Suddenly, a small crocodile jumps out of the lake, landing in front of them. Kneeling down, Wade is completely shocked, asking where the big monster from before went. The terminal explains that tamed water beasts can manipulate their energy to adjust their body size, and that the crocodile's current form consumes almost no energy. Placing his hand on his chin, the boy is intrigued by this feature, saying it's just what you'd expect from the system. Wade asks the crocodile where it found the water essence and tells it to show him the way. That little creature jumps into the water. The boy follows the beast, trying to find the source. A structure made of rocks and covered in algae comes into view for both of them. Wade comments that it looks like an underwater mountain cavern. Looking up, he says this place is truly spectacular as he sees several golden threads leading to some kind of plant at the end. Staring at the strands, he wonders if those are the legendary mystical herbs. When he touches the plant, The system says he discovered exactly what he thought, and it contains water essence, which he can choose to absorb. Wade explains that there are natural treasures that have absorbed extraordinary powers. They have special effects and are called mystical herbs. It's said that President Jeo's backyard has an icy lake, and at its bottom one can find the water chestnut. The heads of the family have used these to win over warriors from other regions as patrons. Gathering the mystical herbs, the boy wonders how much water essence they might give him. He also shouts for the crocodile to come help since they got plenty of time. Completely ignoring the request, the little monster bites one of the plants, flips upside down, and the boy says he's incredibly lazy and should be called the unmoving one. Slowly, Wade starts collecting the herbs outside the water. After a while, he picks the last one, holding it in his hand and saying finally with relief. Biting into one, the system shows that a water essence has been discovered and can be used to improve synchronization with the Z spirit and beast evolution. With a satisfied look, the boy says it tastes delicious. Without stopping, he keeps eating them one by one, and the terminal repeatedly announces that he gained another water essence. After finishing them all, his belly is quite full, and the boy lets out a few relieved sighs. The terminal shows that the boy has Z spirit refinement at 5% synchronization, 25 water essences, and indicates how many are needed for the next evolution. Looking at the information and talking about beast progression and refinement, Wade concludes that he has to focus on improving himself first. Clicking the add button that appeared in front of him, an image of a creature forms behind him, and he says that his body seems to be improving rapidly, and that now he could fight the people who showed up that day. The system shows that synchronization increased by 2.5% since the last time. While forming water in his hand, Wade says that the force he can control it with is approximately 22.5 kilograms. On top of that, all the food he ate makes him realize that he'll be able to save money for a few days since he's so full. Thinking aloud, the boy says the most important issue now is money. Noting that autumn is approaching, the crocodile's flow is decreasing, and it's not ideal for fishing. Suddenly, a fish flies near Wade. Confused, the boy looks to see where it came from. It was the little monster that brought it. Holding the crocodile in his hands, he calls it dependable and thinks that this financial crisis will be solved if he sells everything. After that night, now in the morning, Wade says he sold a large golden fish for 80 yen, making a small profit. He also comments that the merchants in this world aren't like the aunties from his past life, because it was really easy to convince them. The young man thinks that once he deals with the water essence issue, the next thing he must do is find time to take care of Lai Tu-jean. By sheer coincidence, the old man appears saying it looks like Wade is there. He continues saying that the other day they might have had a little misunderstanding, and he wanted to find him to apologize. So he mentions that his boat isn't far away and invites the young man to have a good meal and settle everything. Adding that it'll be just the two of them, Wade reflects on how he'll escape if they're alone. Smiling, the boy lets out a slight chuckle. Agreeing, the young man says it's perfect that it'll be just the two of them, saying he feels completely at ease. In another part of the city, 3 soldiers are surrounding Lai Tu while another one stands with his back to him. The one turned away says something went wrong with the experiments at City Hall recently, and several people didn't survive. Turning his face slightly, he goes on saying that headquarters is in urgent need of elixir materials, and that young Liang Ku is the perfect choice, asking if he understands. Lai Tu says he understands, and that the young man won't escape. No matter what happens tomorrow, he'll tie him up himself. The man gets closer and says that if he does this properly, Master Zhao will ask the great figures to help him ascend to immortality. Completely convinced, the old man asks if that's true. Zheng says that's obvious. Lai Tu says he's going to be immortal, and that finally, he will ascend, saying this as he lifts part of his shirt, revealing a reddish symbol near his stomach. Right after that, he shouts that he'll succeed in this mission. Some time later, the two are already on the boat out at sea. The old man tells Wade to look at this beautiful quiet place with no other boats around them, while Lai Tu discreetly tosses something into the food, hidden from the boy. He says they should enjoy a good meal and settle this problem privately. Looking to the side, the boy asks if he's sure there really are no other boats nearby. The man says there aren't, and that he checked everything very carefully. In his mind, the moment the boy eats that fish soup, he can scream all he wants. No one will save him. Wade, slowly standing up with water magic flowing in his right hand, says that's great. Suddenly, a blast of the young man's ability hits Lai Tu square in the face. The old man falls to the ground and tries to scream. He can't breathe, and he can't remove the magic from his face. Gradually, the old man loses consciousness, seeing Wade one last time. Now at night, Lai Tu begins to wake up. He's in shock when he realizes he's tied up with ropes. Wade, sitting nearby, watches the old man wake and says it looks like he was sleeping deeply. In desperation, the man asks what he plans to do with him. Holding a small money pouch, the young man says it looks like he made a good profit selling him to the Zhao family for at least 2 taels. Lai Tu, begging him to listen and saying he can explain everything. Here's Wade ask if he finds this place a little familiar. The old man replies that it's the spot where they hunted that water beast that night. Suddenly, the crocodile comes out of the lagoon just behind the boy, mouth wide open, prompting a slight laugh from Wade. Terrified, the man says it's one of those creatures. Wade says it was a monster, but now it's his pet, and asks if he wasn't the one who called him a monster. Lei Tu agrees and repeats multiple times that he really is one. Begging not to be eaten, he says he'll tell everything. The young man wants to know why Butler Zheng wants him so badly with Master Zhao, and the reason for hiring so many servants recently. Nervously, the old man says it's for the materials needed for the master's immortality ascension, and that the elixir must be refined for the evolution. In another location where this ritual is being performed, several people have symbols on their stomachs, and it appears their energy is being drained. Wade says he's captured many innocent people then. Lei Tu, trying to explain, says he was forced to do it, while in his mind he thinks the boy is useless and should be turned into elixir. The boy picks up a stone, going to strike the man, who asks if he really would. Before he can finish, the young man hits the old man. Wade says that Lei Tu saw everything, with a terrifying look on his face, now stating that the old man has seen his monstrous side. Falling into the water with the crocodile's hand nearby, the old man thinks he's being taken to the master to be used as an elixir, and that he has to deal with the young man. The young man says that maybe he needs to find a powerful backer to buy himself time to grow stronger. Lei Tu slowly begins to sink into the water. Part of his shirt lifts, revealing a symbol as his belly begins to move. A new day begins at that lake after all the chaos of the previous night. Everything seems calm, as if nothing could happen to the seagull that just landed on the tip of a small boat. Suddenly, Wade places his arm on the boat, causing the bird to fly off as he rises from the water. With a small crocodile on his shoulder, he lets out a relieved sigh, appearing content. Forming a small current of water in his hand, he says that having this power makes everything more convenient. Wade says it's already been 3 days since he dealt with Lei Tu Zhang. As he takes some fish out of a small basin, the young man says he's been acting like a regular fisherman, going out early and coming back late, selling to earn money. He even got this boat by using the old man's identity to cover up everything that happened. But the Zhao family forces won't let it slide, and that old man's sudden disappearance will eventually come back to bite him. The young man says he needs to become a martial artist as soon as possible. He then concludes that the fastest way to do that is by enrolling in one of those schools. There are 3 in Pingyang City, and the most powerful one belongs to the Yang clan. It's said that the head of that group possesses immense strength and can break gold and shatter stone, which is why they sit at the top. He thinks that if he can get into that martial arts hall, the Zhao family won't be able to touch him, because if a disciple goes missing, it would cause a huge issue for the school. But the entrance fee is around 5 to 8 taels, and right now he only has 2 wens, so he needs to find a way to earn money more easily. The crocodile grabs the young man's attention. Wade laughs and says he's overthinking again and worrying too much about the future. Ever since his last upgrade, his body has adapted, even mentally. Right after their little break, the boy says it's time to get back to fishing. Since the evolution, moving through water feels more and more natural to Wade, he tells the unmoving one to keep up with their race as a form of training. The little crocodile gives the boy a long stare. With a large formation of magical flow, Wade compresses the water beneath his feet, allowing him to propel forward with great momentum. It has the drawback of not being sustainable and requiring a lot of physical strength, but for now, nothing should be able to match his speed. Immediately after saying that, a shadow-like shape swiftly passes by the boy without much difficulty. Seeing this movement, he wonders what it was. Wade yells that it's a mystic fish. In this world, some species have evolved with unique powers. Those fish that live in the Great Swamp are known that way. The boy exclaims that there are 2 of them at once. It's already hard enough to find just one, but he just ran into a pair. These 2 small creatures start swimming away from him as if fleeing. Wade tells the unmoving one to go after one of them. The crocodile begins to emit a powerful aura as it shifts from its current form into its original one. Thus begins the great beast's chase against one of the mystic fish. Wade, on the other hand, turns toward the remaining one and doesn't waste any time giving chase. As he rushes forward, he says he should have brought his fishing net. Using that technique he mentioned earlier, the boy propels himself ahead. Wade stretches his hand forward, and the terminal shows that he used water flow control. The fish becomes trapped inside a bubble created by the boy, immobilizing it. Wasting no time, the boy grabs the fish so it doesn't get the chance to escape. Wade says he got it, holding the fish in his hands. Immediately after, an immense presence slowly passes behind the boy, storing the mystic fish he caught. The boy says today's catch wasn't bad, and that he can make a lot of money with it. Suddenly, something grabs the boy by the stomach. Surprised, he's pulled by this unknown force. A massive monster slams Wade to the ground in that lagoon. Coughing violently, he can barely handle it. The creature approaches the boy lying on the ground as the mist begins to clear. Wade asks what the hell that thing is. He heard that there are 6 catfish that eat people under the river in the city of Yixing, and apparently it had to be his luck to end up encountering one. The young man asks what the creature is doing now, as it seems to be using the same magic as Wade to launch an attack. Moving his hand, and using the same ability that trapped that mystical fish last time, the young man tries to react to the upcoming strike. By doing so, he manages to cancel out the energy the monster was gathering. He also says that was way too close, relieved that his reflexes were fast enough. Suddenly, the creature moves and strikes Wade, who can't do anything in response, and is just confused as to how it managed to land the hit. The young man finds it strange and says the monster is laughing at him, which actually seems to be happening. That doesn't last long when Immobile arrives and lands a powerful tail attack, launching the other creature downward. Finishing that motion, Wade's ally watches the other fall. Chasing after its prey, the crocodile bites the catfish's neck mercilessly, making it roar in pain, while the young man says Immobile did a great job. Placing his hand on the ground to support himself, the boy says this is his chance. At this point, if Wade doesn't tame the creature, he definitely won't be able to resist it. Using the command seal, the young man says he'll use what remains of his mental energy to subdue the monster. The system warns that doing this will cause a mental overload and that he should stop. Proceeding could cause consequences, but he ignores everything and decides to go all the way. Giving his all, he starts to scream from the sheer effort he's making. The creature's eyes, once filled with resistance, now calm down. Back on the small boat, Wade emerges from the water after that confrontation. Exhausted, he stays lying down, saying he didn't expect to end up catching such a fat catfish with so much mental resistance, almost losing control. Turning his face toward the water, he says, but the rewards are just as good as all of that. A message from the system appears saying that by capturing the catfish, Wade has gained the ability to evolve. Such an upgrade requires 800 units of water essence to enhance it into the tiger head catfish variant. The young man says the catfish's name will be Gordonho, saying it suits him well. Now the boy says it's time to see how much they caught, turning everything over on the floor of the boat. That other mystical fish comes from Immobile's mouth, who had stored it inside. Placing his hand on the crocodile's head and petting him, the boy says he really is trustworthy. A massive amount of fish ends up at the base of the boat. It was a great day. Wade says he wants to try eating the small mystical one first to see if it boosts his strength or not. Right after that, only bones and spines are left on the floor. The young man, holding the leftover horn, says he'll keep it as a memento, and the system shows that his water essence increased by 18 points. Seeing this information, Wade is surprised, comparing it to the equivalent of 18 mystic lotuses. He reflects out loud that if the small one gives all that, maybe the larger one delivers 3 times more, or even 53 points, possibly breaking the 10% barrier. Changing the subject, the young man thinks he should first set some aside for his payments, but ends up concluding that might be a bit too much. In the city of Yixing, the marketplace is full of people moving around. Wade is among them, looking around. Someone says that last month's festival has already passed, and asks what the current celebration is about. A young boy named Chen Ji-chang holds a mystical fish that appears once every century, weighing 1 kilo and 18 grams. People seem impressed. Another, watching from afar, wonders if he really managed to catch one of those. Wade, excited, moves through the crowd, asking for space, and the people around wonder if he's the young man from the Liang family and why he's in such a hurry. Eventually, he reaches the two at the center of all the commotion. The newcomer says that Shangrio's dock must be blessed by the river god, since 2 mystical fish were caught in one day. One of the people asks what he's talking about, since Chen only has one of those. Wade says he's not talking about that one, but about the fish he caught, showing one of the mystical ones he fished out of that lagoon. Some in the crowd laugh at him, saying that something so ugly could never be one of the magical ones and that he probably bought it from somewhere else for a random price. Wei feels uncomfortable with the mocking, and they don't stop laughing at him. Ji-chan watches it all with a confident smile. From afar, someone asks if that's a red perch. Someone shouts that it's one of the instructors from the Yang martial arts clan, Hu Jai, saying that he has a very imposing presence. The man asks how much that fish would cost. Chen, awkwardly, says to just offer whatever price he thinks is fair. The other man asks about the weight, and the young man says it's 1 kilo and 18 grams. Huji comes to a conclusion and asks if he would sell it for 150 yen. Delighted, the boy says he'll sell it immediately, without even questioning. Wade tells the man to check out his fish too, lifting them up. The crowd tells him to be ashamed of bringing something like that, and warns that if he upsets the instructor, everyone might get dragged into it. Huge takes a good look and asks if that's an oxhorn pomfret. It weighs 1 kilo and 61 grams, says the boy, not even knowing the name of the fish. Getting closer, the instructor says he'll take it for 325. The crowd is shocked. One woman is surprised that her family hasn't managed to make even 300 through generations. Even Chen, who was nearby, is stunned by that information. Wade says he'll sell it gladly, while the other young man looks a little discouraged. He gets to the point where he just walks away from the whole thing. The boy asks why his fish is worth twice as much as the other before handing it over. Hujai explains that the horns can be used in medicine, especially for sealed pills that boost vitality and break blood stagnation, making them valuable to instructors. Wade thanks him and thinks to himself that it's a good thing he kept some of those horns as souvenirs. Now reaching late afternoon, the young man counts the amount of yen he earned, coin by coin. Someone appears behind him unexpectedly. casting a shadow. Lee Bo comes down from where he was, saying he's making everyone proud. Wade relaxes when he sees who it is, saying he didn't get the chance to properly thank him the last time they met. The black-haired boy asks why he doesn't just hand over those 350 yen as payment, and the other boy clearly refuses with a look. Putting the money away, he also asks how much it costs to enter the Yang martial arts clan. Lee Bo says he asked the right person because his dad is sending him there now. He explains it costs 350 just for lessons, 500 if you want to live there, and 1,000 if you want medicinal baths. Separate meals, after all, it's the best place around. Thinking about the minimum fee, Wade made 325 yen today and has 130 saved up, giving him 455 in total. Enough. Wade says they should register together the next day. Lee Bo playfully taps his chest, saying he's rich now, and agrees without hesitation. Suddenly, they hear a voice talking about finding mystic fish again. Wade looks to the side, thinking that's strange. Inside the Zhao temple, the butler says that Lai Tuzhang disappeared and they found things linking him to the name Liang Ku. That other man says not to bother with such trivial matters and that they should handle these things themselves. Zhang Xinan watches uncomfortably and stays silent. Wade can be seen sitting on the boat at night. He's slicing a type of fish with a knife. The unmoving one looks at him cooking with an unimpressed face as he continues. Slowly covering the food, he stays alert together with the crocodile. Later, when he uncovers it, the cooked food looks great and gives off a perfect aroma. He takes a sip after it's done. After tasting it, Wade says it's fresh and fragrant, clearly loving it. He tosses some of the food into the water and tells the two down there to eat too. The system shows that he gained 24 water essences as he watches the two sleeping. As expected from a mystic fish, the boy says all the power is coming to him rapidly, and his strength has grown a lot. This time he was really lucky, and Faye found another treasure fish. Placing a hand on his chin, he says it's time for a power-up, 18 from the catfish plus these 24. Wade places his hand on the system and clicks to reset. A powerful aura rises behind him, and he says his power is increasing steadily. The system updates, showing that his synchronization has now reached 11.7%. Punching the air, the young man says that having a training partner would be perfect right now. He even mentions that his water control has improved significantly as he moves Gordon Ho from his spot, scaring him. Wade says he only gave a bit of leftovers to the two little ones and that their evolution requirements have decreased. The terminal shows that both the crocodile and the catfish now need only 799 water essences for their next upgrade. Holding the box that awakened his powers with magic, the boy wonders if it was made by humans or formed naturally. As far as he can tell, one side seems to depict the Yin dragon and the other a large monkey similar to Ushiki, along with other gods with human heads and various forms. Clenching his fist along with the urn, he says he's overthinking and that this will be useless to him right now. Tomorrow, Wade will go to the martial hall and get stronger to deal with the Zhao family. The next day, now bright and sunny, Lee Bo shouts from the top of a cart that they can go now, clearly excited. Unable to contain his energy, he also asks how long it'll take to get there, then tells Liang Ku to look in the direction he's pointing. Eventually, the two young men arrive in the city of Pingyang, which is much more urban compared to their village. Walking through the city, the boys observe the activity around them. They eat local exotic food. They see live puppet-making demonstrations, and also a performance of two men showcasing their physical abilities. Near a dark alley, a man asks if the kid the other guy mentioned is really going to pass through there. The other guy replies yes with a confident look. He says he heard it directly from the boy himself, that he told the child from the Lee family he was going to enroll in the Yang Martial Hall. He goes on to say that this young guy sold a fish that fetched 325 yen, something none of them could earn even by selling their own wives. That thug says they'll be dragged to the Yamen for this, but the man replies that he doesn't get it. Why waste that money handing it over for nothing? The guy adds that the path required to cross and reach the martial arts hall is exactly where they are, and no one is passing by, making it the perfect time for their plan. One of them shouts to stop talking because the two are coming. Lee Bo asks the young man how many people he thinks he'll be able to take down after training, and the boy replies that he has no idea. Wade thinks that he doesn't even know how many he can handle using his true strength, assuming there aren't too many. One of the thugs steps in front of their path, drawing their attention. Their boss says they meet again and demands that he hand over all his money. He goes on saying he can hand over all the cash or they'll bury them right there by the side of the road. Wade decides he's going to have to beat him down to get through. Without backing off, their boss charges forward with his fist raised for a punch. Wade is way faster and lands the same punch straight to his face, even breaking a few of his teeth. The young man sees another thug approaching from behind with a serious expression. He elbows him as a reaction to his approach, then grabs him by the head afterward, throwing that man toward another one who was standing, knocking both of them down. Wade, using the opening he created, punches the face of the last one standing. The force is so strong that it cracks the ground. Lee Bo says it was so fast and that the whole fight ended in just 9 moves. Looking at his own hand, the young man sees the damage he caused, thinking that his physical abilities really did increase significantly. The other boy asks when he got that strong, and whether he even needs a master. Liang Q, scratching his head, says maybe he's just a genius. Trying to dodge the topic, he quickly says they should hurry or they'll be late for registration. Li Bo watches him walk off, suspicious of something. Shortly after, the young men manage to reach the temple. At the entrance, they meet Shang Changsong, though he prefers to be called Elder Brother Chang. The two boys greet this instructor. As they walk, Shang explains that he's going to take them to another instructor for their test, and to explain the details about warriors. Pointing at someone, he says that Elder Brother Hugh will be the one training them. This person is a direct disciple of Master Yang. Wade points out that it's the same guy from the market. Huki turns toward them, having heard the noise. The instructor says he recognizes the two of them, and Changsung says it's a big coincidence that they already know each other. He also mentions that it was the young man who used that pomfret horn and that he bought it from his small stall. Since they know each other, Elder Brother Chang comments that both of them train with Huki and that tonight they'll stay inside the martial arts hall. Wade and Li Bo greet their new master, instructor who tells them to follow him, saying he'll test the innate bone structure of each of them. Liang Ku questions this, confused. Laughing, their master tells them not to be nervous and that he'll do it to determine which path is best for each one. Wade says they still don't fully understand what each path of martial cultivation can do, and asks if Elder Brother could explain the principles. Reflecting, Huki says they are divided into 4 stages: skin, flesh, bone, and vital force. The first focuses on hardening the external body, like oxide, resilient and hard to break, drastically boosting defense. Next, the second is focused on muscle development and the ability to lift a grown man with one hand, making it easy. Bone barrier focuses power in a more raw way, allowing feats like smashing stones and breaking monuments. The last focuses on overall enhancement of your abilities, making everything more powerful. In the end, everything centers on refinement, but for normal people, there is always a limit, and to surpass it, one needs technique and medicine. Wade and Li Bo are confused upon hearing about these 2 requirements. Huki comments that the methods refer to martial techniques. For example, in the martial arts hall, the first 3 techniques allow one to have a stairway to ascend. The young man thinks those must be the cultivation techniques and asks about the medicine. Their master continues, saying that techniques allow the climb, but the path is difficult. To ascend with both speed and safety, medicine is necessary. Those fish that Wade sold are exactly the kind of medicine they need, making him realize that with Zed, acquiring these things will be easy. Huki says there's no need to rush, and that the path of martial arts is long. Take one step at a time. Liang Ku thanks him for the guidance and lets him continue with the plan they had earlier. Far from there, a trio of young men are sitting and watching from afar. One of them asks third young Master Zhao if that's the person they were talking about. Someone behind them agrees and says that as long as he can drive those 2 out of the martial hall, he'll make sure his wish is granted. Butler Zhang says that Liang Ku is 15 years old and would be perfect material for refining elixirs, being similar to third young master and an orphan. As long as they can capture him, it would match young Master Zhao's condition. The leader himself says that Yuan has been weak since he was a child, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to find a fetal pill of the same age. And Wade really is ideal. Continuing, he complains that that boy is going to enter the Yang clan, and that Yang Dongshang's temperament won't make it easy to act. Meanwhile, someone overhears everything. Zheng then says he's leaving, dropping a paper. The person who was listening picks up the sheet from the floor, revealing it to be a photo of Liang Ku. As he looks at it, the man thinks that he must consume the celestial elixir and break through the gate. Anyone who gets in his way will die, crushing the paper with obvious rage. Li Bo yells in shock, saying he never expected Wade to have a perfect bone structure, while his is only medium level. Frustrated, the other young man says something must be wrong, and Wade says it must just come down to talent in the end. The boy tells them to wait for him, while Liang Ku has already gone ahead, urging them to hurry up to the training area. Li Bo is surprised by something as he looks forward. It turns out they run into Chen Ji Chang in the exact same place. The young man asks what he's doing here, and the other says that if they're here, why couldn't he be? In the end, the two almost start a fight, while Wade says they're from the same town and should just forget about all that. Liang Ku greets him and explains that Chen is also from Yingxing City, and that he's an experienced fisherman who had a good relationship with the former owner of the body. Wade asks if the young man is also here to practice martial arts. The boy replies yes, and says that in this world, who doesn't want strength? So after selling fish and saving up enough, he came here. Let's head to the martial arts training area together then, says the young man. Hu Kai is probably already teaching classes there, and Li Bo adds that they'll miss out if they don't run. A punch can be seen being thrown into the air. With a sequence of others also training, they repeat the same movement. Li Bo seems to be having a lot of difficulty with one of the exercises, but he's not the only one. Wade and Chen are also struggling. Hu Kai tells everyone to take an afternoon break and says that Instructor Lu will continue the training. The trio sits down near a tree, and Li Bo says he's exhausted and even thinks about giving up, while Chen calls him a weakling. Someone says they smell a strong scent of fish and asks where it's coming from. Suddenly, Lu Yan Kai stands in front of them and tells them to move because the smell is awful. and his partner Xu Dinyi adds that they must have been born with fish in their stomachs. This instructor says that each of them should give 100 wen to be allowed to stay in the institution. Li Bo gets annoyed and tells him to, before being interrupted by Chen, who tells him to calm down and not cause trouble. Wade thinks that with his current strength, he's not sure if he can handle all three of them at once. Lu Yan keeps provoking them to fight and says he's about to break through the skin barrier and would love to test it out. The young man reflects that if they were in a river, Li Bo gets scared and nervous, not knowing how to deal with the situation. Someone interrupts, asking what the three of them think they're doing. Hu Qi says if they have nothing better to do, they should hold stance for half an hour. Lu Yuan says the three of them should consider themselves lucky, and that this place isn't for cowards. The instructor repeats the question, asking if they heard him, and they respond that they're on their way immediately as his tone grows harsher. Chen tells Li Bo to stop complaining behind his back. It won't fix anything, while he himself is already fed up. Wade thinks his strength has stagnated and that he needs to speed things up, get more power, and become stronger. Full of energy, the boy tells his two friends that he needs to go home for a moment, and without any further explanation, he runs off, asking the two of them to cover for him. Li Bo asks what could be going on, and Chen has no idea either. An alert goes off in Wade's mind, saying that the Lotus Lake is in danger and has an enemy present. While running, he says this is the key to his evolution, and nothing can go wrong. Much later, the two rivals leave the martial arts temple. Li Bo says that Liang Ku hasn't returned yet, and Chen says the emperor may not be worried, but the Yanachar, adding that he must have his reasons. The two start arguing again over what each one just said. A round of clapping interrupts their bickering. The figure who draws their attention says that it looks like the heavens are smiling on him because he's found those two cowards again. Lu Yan says that this time there won't be any elder brotherhood to protect them. The two young men say it's him. The instructor says to watch as he takes care of them. At Lotus Lake, night has already fallen. A small crab watches the moonlight from the water for a while. Wade is on top of Immobile, who is swimming now. The young man mentions that his two monsters are close to the skin barrier level, but they still send a signal out of fear, wondering what kind of creature it must be. Passing through the algae, he says he's here. Wade says that based on the marks, this monster must be massive. His two partners now shrink back to their smaller forms. He realizes that after eating the treasure fish last time, their synchronization rose to 11.7%, and he can now control 35 kilos of water. More importantly, his perception in this terrain expanded from 1 meter to 6 meters, allowing him to see detailed surroundings clearly. Even so, Wade seems worried by what he senses and sees. The young man doesn't know how to define such a creature as he stares at it, wondering if it's a crab. But as the monster reveals itself, Wade says it's way too big. The boy is shocked that a creature like this could gain sentience, and based on what the instructor said, any beast like that likely surpasses the spirit level, probably being one. Wade thinks it must not be that strong if Immobile and Gordino even had a chance to escape, but he wonders if he can really do it without a plan. To become stronger means to follow something, but Wade slowly remembers that he's already been called a monster before. They also said he was exactly like his father and didn't know what was truly good for him, and that there's no room for cowards. Wade says that accidents and danger have always been part of his life. Life-changing events require risk, and only the truly important things happen by chance. Insignificant ones are planned carefully, so the young man refuses to accept something like that. If something is within his reach, he won't just leave it behind and give up. Wade says that Lai Tu-jong tried to take his life and thus perished. And if this creature wants to take the Lotus Field, the monster will have to prove its skills are superior to his. His two companions transform, standing beside him. Wade and the others charge forward as he shouts for them to attack. On the other side, Chen takes a punch to the face and falls to the ground. Lu Yan says the boy really has guts and asks where his friend ran off to. The boy grabs a brick and smashes it into the instructor's face, saying he went to his grandfather's house. Expressionless for a moment, Lu Yan tries to process what just happened. Suddenly, he stomps on Chen's face. He says it looks like the two of them really have a death wish today. Lu Yan tells the other three to stand guard at the gate because he's going to have some fun with the dew on the ground. The three of them agree as soon as they receive the order. Li Bo gets up shouting, "You son of a," but he's cut off easily as the instructor grabs his fist, stopping the punch. Lu Yan twists the arm he caught, making him scream in pain. He continues, saying it looks like Li Bo loves to talk now, as he shoves him to the ground. Turning to Chen, he comments that his eyes are sharp. Lu Yan says he'll take them out and see how well they train without them. Li Bo begs with all his strength for him to stop this immediately. The man's finger slowly approaches Chen's eye. A scream from the boy is heard right after. Then someone shouts for him to stop. At the bottom of the Lotus Lake, the crab holds the stone. Eventually, it crushes it easily with its claw. The debris flies through the area, and Wade still manages to dodge them. He complains that its shell is incredibly heavy and invincible. The unmoving one says the creature can't move. Right after that, the crocodile bites the crab's leg. Wade casts a spell called Empty Water Current, which begins to surround the monster. Gordon-ho observes this beside the boy. Coughing, he complains that he lost control because his mental energy is failing. As a result, the bindings break, freeing the creature. The crab prepares to attack again. A surprise strike from above by Gordon-ho manages to stop it. Wade tells the catfish to grab it confidently. The creature begins to move wildly, breaking some of the nearby lotuses. Annoyed, the boy gets frustrated at seeing his plants destroyed. An attack from the monster comes at Wade, who tries to block it with his staff. But with such power behind it, injury is inevitable, even if he succeeds in defending. The young man manages to land on the ground and stay on his feet. He then declares that this monster won't leave here alive today. With a claw attack coming in close, Wade carefully observes his opponent from below. He then concludes that it must have a weak point too. Dodging at the right moment after figuring this out, he calls for help from his two allies the moment he manages to protect himself. Both charge in at full force, targeting opposite ends of the claws and managing to stop its attacks. Wade realizes that no matter how many hits it takes, the crab instinctively protects its abdomen, and the boy understands that must be its weak point. Gripping his spear, the young man says he's been planning this attack for a while and that he'll compress water at the tip of the weapon to maximize its power. But for now, he can only use his mental energy to force the construction of Bing Huan, which extends the weapon in 2 stages. The system shows that his energy reserves are too low and that controlling a beast could be dangerous. But even so, he prepares to strike, hurting himself in the process. Wade says, "Let's see who can last until the end." Then he throws the spear imbued with his full power toward the creature's abdomen. Right before it hits, the boy yells that the lotus field is his. The attack pierces through the crab's belly with a powerful impact. Wade says with relief that he won, then slowly starts closing his eyes. Waking up some time later, Wade asks why he lost consciousness. Looking at immobile, the young man asks if they were the ones who saved him, while petting him. Placing his hand on his own head afterward, Wade says his head hurts a lot and that he'll have to use that technique more carefully next time. Paying attention, he realizes he was actually resting his hand on top of the crab he defeated. In shock, he yells that they also brought that damn monster there. Wade says it must give a good amount of water essence. Immobile draws the young man's attention to the monster's belly. He approaches and asks if it was a female. Looking closely, he sees a large number of eggs and says the shame he couldn't tame this monster, since its power would have increased so much. The young man wonders if that command seal might still work. Grabbing a stone, the boy intentionally wounds himself to test it. The system shows that the skill was used on the egg. When he removes his hand, it looks like the mark remained in place. Wade asks if he really did it. The egg starts to move, and suddenly a small crab claw breaks through the shell. Then it reveals itself to be one of that monster's kind, with 2 massive eyes, and the terminal says he tamed a stone-type creature, and evolving it costs 8,000 water essences. Wade breaks off a piece of glowing meat. He immediately eats a large portion of it, and the system says the fusion rate increased to 10.4%. During the meal, this number rises to 18.8%. Eventually, with the young man's body looking like it's covered in flames, the fusion rate reaches 36.6%. The boy screams as a wave of energy forms a shape resembling a Chinese legend behind his back. In the water, the 3 little creatures watch everything, with 2 of them even looking impressed. Wade comments as he feels everything, that even his wounds have fully healed. A divine miracle, he thinks, while the trio seems happy. He says the fusion rate increased along with physical boosts from the mystical fish, also granting extra energy in the process. Tossing the rest of the crab, Wade says they won't stay fresh for long, and 1 egg only gives 6 points of water essence, so it's not worth keeping them. Thinking it through, the young man decides to name his new little monster Punho, since it's the size of a fist, and says it would be cruel for him to eat one of his own kind. The boy thinks that if he can break the skin barrier within a month, he'll have a shot becoming a student, and the Zhao family won't bother him anymore. Now he just needs to return to the martial arts hall for the next day of training. Back to the young men, someone shouts at Lu Yan to stop. This man says that's enough. Lu Shouhe says the martial arts hall has its own rules. Mocking, the other man says that's not his decision to make. He's just following orders from the 3rd young master Zhao. The instructor seems shocked upon hearing that. Lu Yan asks whether he's going to follow the rules of the martial hall or the Zhao family. Laughing, they say this instructor was gone for a few days and already forgot who his master is. Still on that, the man says that if the Zhao family hadn't taken him and his father in, where does he think he'd be? Wouldn't it be better to stay as an obedient dog? Doubting the other, Lu Yan asks if he forgot that his father is still in bad shape and finally tells him to say something nice and he'll let this go. Lu Shouhe apologizes and thinks to himself that he will protect his family, no matter what happens to him. They pointed at him, laughing, calling him a dog, saying now he's finally doing the right thing. Someone spits in Lu Yan's face, interrupting the laughter. Chen, lying on the ground, was the one who did it, and now finds it funny. The young man says he can't even watch him playing those tricks of his, calling it pathetic. Lu Yan, wiping his face, starts laughing again in a sadistic way. He suddenly kicks Li Bo right in the arm that had already been injured. Screaming in pain, the young man can barely endure it, while his attacker tells him to keep playing the hero a bit more, saying he won't even lay a hand on Chen. He'll just make his friends suffer instead. The boy shouts for him to come after him if he dares. Lu Yan asks if he really thinks someone is going to come save them, and says Instructor Hugh isn't around, so who's going to save them now? At the end of that sentence, one of the thugs goes flying after the injured man. Surprised, he looks back. A familiar shadow approaches, with one of its eyes glowing. Wade arrives with a serious look, staring off to the side of him. Chen asks about the boy while standing next to Li Bo. Wade, surrounded by red flames, says that he promises that he's going to knock out every single one of Lu Yan's teeth as the fire around him intensifies. On top of a roof near the conflict, two men observe everything. Hu Qi tells his master that it's his fault because he was too happy about breaking through the vital energy barrier, ended up drinking too much, and arrived late. He also didn't know that Lu Shouhui had such a stone-cold heart. Yang Dongshinong says that this is exactly why he hasn't been able to break through the vital energy barrier, because a warrior without courage is like a body without breath. Hu Qi suggests they help Liang, commenting that he's a rookie and Lu Yan is about to break through the skin barrier, and there's no way he could win. The master says the vital energy of the young Wade is intriguing. Lu Yan asks if he really thinks he can break his teeth. Clenching his fists, the boy says he already told him that he's going to break everything, charging forward fueled by rage over what the instructor did. He says that Wade is just a mere fisherman and tells his goons to catch him. Wade drop kicks the man in the middle. He also dodges one of the punches with ease, being in a state of intense focus, counterattacking with more power straight to the thug's face without difficulty. One of the thugs yells to take his kick as he attacks, then warns Wade not to get cocky. Meeting the same fate as the others, he takes a strong punch and is sent flying. The young man says it's Lu Yan's turn now. With a red aura, the instructor says that just because the kid defeated everyone else, it doesn't mean they're on the same level. This is only the first sign of the barrier. Their eyes lock, signaling that a fight is about to begin. Lu Yan tries to land a punch on Wade, but he blocks it with his arm and counterattacks with a kick to the instructor's stomach, followed by a blow to the face. The boy is angry about everything that happened, and it seems it won't end just there. With an upward strike to his opponent's chin, the boy delivers a decisive blow. Lu Yan staggers back injured. Wade says the instructor is nothing special after all, suddenly pulling out a knife. The man says the boy is just a filthy fisherman, slashing at him. Following up with a sequence of knife attacks, Lu Yan asks who's going to help him now, calling him alone and fatherless, asking who he can count on. Wade puts his hand up and blocks one of the knife strikes, then says the instructor is truly shameful. He prepares a punch while calling him disgusting, detestable, and a huge coward. Landing the hit, he slams him into the ground, breaking several bricks. So filled with rage, only steam comes out of the boy's mouth. Lu Yan begs him to stay away and calls for Lu Shouhui, who was silently watching everything. He questions why he's not doing anything since Wade is attacking his disciples, and the instructor says he's going to. Suddenly, a massive sword falls between them and someone says that's enough. Master Yang declares that Lu Tingkai, Su Dingyi, Yu Weilong, Ding Kuji, all 6 of them, will no longer be welcome in that martial hall. Continuing, he says that Lu Shouhui will stay in the confinement room and he'll speak to him later, only accepting his judgment in the end. Wade wonders if this is the legendary Yang Dongshan, known as Master Yang. The boy thinks that with such a huge mistake, he probably won't be allowed to stay in the martial hall anymore, recalling the moments of the fight where he took several hits from his opponent. In the end, he wonders if it still wasn't enough. Master Yang asks if his name is Liang Ku, and he confirms. Then he asks if the boy would like to become the master's personal disciple. Wade is shocked, turning his head toward him. The master extends his hand for the boy to take. In the Yang household, morning arrives. 2 young men chat about how the master officially accepted his 9th personal disciple that day and said he was a pretty handsome kid. A girl speaks to Liang Ku. She says she brought the ceremonial clothes with her colleagues and adds that she'll help the boy put them on. Wade refuses the help and says he'll dress himself. The girls walk away laughing a little, leaving everything to him. Sighing, he looks down with his eyes closed in relief. Wade says it's been 2 weeks since he defeated Lu Tingkai. Thinking, he continues, saying that Chen and Li Bo's injuries have greatly healed thanks to Master Yang's treatments. He says he's no longer alone, that he has brothers, sisters, and the support of his new mentor. Wade concludes that it's time for revenge against the Zhao family. Somewhere else, someone says that Liang Shidi was holding back that night. Hu Qi says someone who just entered the martial hall already defeated someone who was breaking through the skin barrier. Su Zai Shui says he's heard enough. It's been 2 weeks of nothing but that. And Sen Chan Song comments that if the master summoned him just by seeing him, he must be incredible. Zhuo Xiaoqin asks the 4th brother if he's jealous of the newcomer and questions what he gave him this time. The guy says he gave him a tungsten steel guard with a confident look on his face. Hu Qi tells him not to provoke Sen Chan Song, and that it must have been hard saving up money for that. Looking back, The instructor says Wade is coming, wearing new clothes. The young man approaches the others. Liang Ku calls out to the brothers and heads over. He sincerely thanks everyone for the generous gifts he received from all of them. The fourth brother says he still hasn't given his, laughing a bit, handing over a fine piece of tungsten steel. The young man says he prepared something good with it for him. He also offers for him to come by his shop anytime he needs a weapon, and Wade thanks his older brother Lu. Another instructor approaches and says that now that the gifts are done, it's time to go to the main hall and not keep the master and a lady waiting any longer. At the Zhao family estate, Butler Zhang calls for the master. He says Lai Tu's body was found, but the thing that was inside his stomach is gone. Striking the man's face, the boss calls him a useless idiot. Yelling at him, he asks if he even realizes how much trouble it could cause if that thing gets exposed. If the authorities get involved, the butler had better offer his own head as an apology. Zhang says it was all because of Liang Ku, who must have done all that to Lai Tu and let the thing escape. Zhao says the young man is a personal disciple of Dongshan and asks if he would really dare test his blade. Getting closer and grabbing the butler's head, he says to listen carefully. He doesn't care what methods he uses, but he needs to find that thing immediately. Now about Liang Ku, the man thinks. Someone calls for the newest member of the martial arts school. Master Yang says Wade is someone who is grateful and repays kindness, brave but composed, and diligent in his own way, ending by asking if he wants to become his disciple. On his knees, the young man agrees to the offer. The elder continues, saying that by joining, he must remain humble and open-minded, disciplined, and respectful toward teachers and elders, and faithful to everything. He must not harm fellow disciples, act without justice, or abuse his power to oppress others, then asks if he understands. Wade responds that he fully understands. Master Yang says that the moment he drinks that tea, he will become his 9th direct disciple, and from now on, no one will be able to threaten or insult him, then asks if he understands that. Wade says he understands once more. During the day, after Liang Ku's admission as Yang's disciple, several young men are training, punching the air, and someone yells for them to take a break. Most of them are completely exhausted afterward. Two guys talk about how Wade will receive training from Master Yang, and the other says he really is lucky for a nobody. What really satisfies them is that Liu Yan and his gang were expelled from the martial arts school, and they say there are other instigators after them. A man who overhears everything gets stressed, repeating the name Liang Ku in his head. Hu Qi talks to Wade, asking if he knows about the 4 barriers and the 7 paths, to which Wade replies he only knows the first and not the second. His instructor explains they are known as Wild Horse, Smoky Wolf, Tiger Hunt, Supreme Elephant, Celestial Dragon, Molten Furnace, and Rainbow Transformation. The first form consists of a warrior who, at his peak, can hold back a dozen horses without budging. With Smoky Wolf, the life force increases to high levels. When his strength is unlocked, it's like a pack of wolves striking fear into others. In Tiger Hunt, the energy burns like a wave with such a terrible power that ordinary people tremble in fear like a weak rabbit facing its predator. The movement that shakes the earth from the Supreme Elephant, powerful enough to make mountains collapse, turns those who are masters into great generals. In the Celestial Dragon, the person becomes one with the Divine Dragon, able to break free from the world's chains and leap 3,000 zhang, flying through the skies as a martial guardian. Hu Qi comments that there isn't much information about the furnace and the Rainbow Transformation. Only those who have already entered the state of immortal ascension know. Wade thinks that if the martial Tao in this world is that powerful, then evolving might mean the ability to return to the previous world. Liang Ku comments that he doesn't know what level the master is. Hu Qi, standing up, asks if he knows how many martial arts schools exist in Pingyang City. The young man answers that there should be 3. Replying, the instructor says that the other 2 can stay in the city because of their levels, but Master Yang only remains in this place because he was born there. Hu Qi comments that their martial school has been number 1 for years because their leader is the only one in Pingyang to have reached the level of Tiger Hunt. Wade thinks that with the system, he might be able to reach that point even faster. The instructor says that the morning class is ending now and tells the boy not to rush his cultivation because progress must be made step by step, with relaxation and control. Liang Ku thinks that because of this, the pressure from the Zhao family will be lighter now, so he'll need to catch more spiritual fish as fast as possible to break the first barrier. Now back at the Lotus Pond, Wade comments that he can't do this alone and says the boat can't handle so many fish, and he should consider changing vessels. Liang Ku adds that it's a shame he hasn't found any spiritual ones, wondering when he'll be able to catch one. Opening the system, the young man sees that fusion has reached 37%, and that if he catches one, he might have the chance to break the first barrier. The terminal shows updated information about his companions as well as the amount needed for their evolutions. Suddenly, a feather falls near Wade. Staying alert, he looks around trying to identify where it came from. Liang Ku asks what that sound was as he puts a hand on his face after a splash of water hits him. Wade notices something, wondering what that thing could be. The water rises with a wild battle between two figures behind it. Liang Ku comments that it's a primordial frog biting a giant bird. The bird throws the other into the water during their clash. A wave forms from the creature's fall, heading straight toward the young man. When it hits the boat, his fish spill from the box, and he yells after them. With the vessel completely destroyed, his former income sinks back into the water. Wade, holding onto the wreckage, looks at what happened. That bird screeches, and some kind of energy seems to be released. Hitting the young man, he says it's a mental attack. Liang Ku, after taking the hit, begins to sink into the water. Wade soon wakes up slowly. The little fist is in front of him, wiggling its tiny claws. Liang Ku asks if he passed out again and says that once more his companion saved him. Putting his hand to his head, the boy thinks that bird really knocked him out with its scream. Looking at a tornado left behind in the lotus pond, Wade says that monster is terrifying, and if one that strong exists, imagine the more powerful ones. Lying on the ground with his hands behind his head, he says it ended up being in vain, that the boat broke, the fish escaped, and now there will be a delay with the first barrier. The creature comes closer to the boy, catching his attention. Wade asks what's up, Sleepyhead, addressing the crocodile. Opening its jaws, the little guy had managed to catch one of the mystical fish, and now Liang Ku can try to break the first barrier. Vital energy is the reflection of a martial artist's physical strength, but one does not become powerful because of that alone. In truth, everything depends on the body's constitution to condense that power. All of this comes from a result, but with that outcome, it can reinforce a cause, forming a positive loop that grows endlessly. In a small house at night, someone moves a small incense stick inside an ashtray. The young man sits with his eyes closed, seeming to concentrate. With sweat dripping, he really seems to be putting in effort. Hu Qi, in Wade's memory, handed over a concentration incense that helps martial artists break through their gates more easily. The key to breaking through the pi barrier and becoming a warrior is to control the temperament of vital energy through the chest. Every time Liang Ku trains this energy, he can recover by eating fish meat. This was already his 38th attempt, and he thought he was still a bit short. Hu Qi had commented that the key to breaking through this barrier is to use Qi and the inner strength of the body's tissues to achieve the effect of skin refinement. They both referred to the energy felt in the chest when practicing martial arts. It's the essence condensed by the human body, the sprout of life. When you feel warmth coming from the upper area and merging with vital force, the key will begin to move and spread everywhere. That is skin refinement. A golden heart beats stronger. Wade says it's already the 40th attempt, but it seems like he's almost there. The system shows all the updates, including all forms and evolution requirements. Liang Ku says he's at 49% and still hasn't broken through the P gate. Wade comments that when he reaches 50, there should be a big change. All the fish is gone, and the lotus roots are almost ineffective. It seems he'll have to go back to harvesting the mystics. Liang Ku notices that morning has already arrived and wonders how. Someone knocks on the young man's door. The parents of both friends speak with the boy, saying they saw him come home late, and his uncle came to check if everything was alright. Wade asks Uncle Lai if something's wrong and wonders why they came to check on him. Lai Dekang says it's nothing serious, just wanted to ask if he saw his son, since he hasn't come back for 2 days, and the others having the same issue, feeling worried. Liang Ku replies that they got home late and forgot to mention that all 3 of them caught the attention of the martial instructors and were given a place to rest. Wade thinks the truth is they're afraid to return because their wounds haven't fully healed yet. The 2 proud parents say how happy they are that the boys are becoming martial artists and growing up together. Lei Dekang says his uncle also came to remind him that the village is holding another sacrificial ceremony for the divine river. Wade asks about the ceremony and says he remembers that tradition but wonders if it hasn't only been 3 months since the last one. They say the river god gave a divine sign yesterday and that they absolutely must hold a new ritual, that it jumped out and caught a flaming bird. Liang Ku thinks they're talking about that frog. Wade says he'll contribute money and participate when the time comes, and they tell him not to forget. Inside the lotus cave, a stream of water begins to rise slowly from the pond. It turns out to be Wade coming out from it. 4 body parts follow him to hold him back. Liang Ku defends himself using his magic. Wade falls back into the water afterward. The creature comes after him, trying to bite. Dodging it, the young man manages to slip past. Wade comments that the amount of water he can control is almost 150 and can be compressed into 10 liters. In other words, 15 kilos each. Swinging his staff to attack, a beam of energy bursts out. As it nears his 2 companions, it looks like he's going to land the hit. Suddenly, the attack disappears. The 2 return to their smaller forms, and the young man says that now his underwater strength has surpassed the P gate, probably able to deal with 4 of Lu Yan. Checking the system, he tries to see if there's any update there. Wade looks at his broken staff and says that if only he had a perfect weapon to use that water technique. The 3rd eldest brother had mentioned that in this world, there are items called spiritual equipment that can self-repair and even level up. but such weapons usually require rare divine materials to form their cores. He wonders when he'll be able to get something like that. Someone says it's hot and burning. Wade asks what he found. The chubby one takes him to some rocks, and the young man asks if it's underneath there. They find a feather, the same one that had fallen from that giant bird, and it seems even more special. Wade notices it looks just like the previous feather. It might be valuable, maybe even a treasure. It turns out the young man is going to visit his older brother Liu Gang at his forge, planning to buy something later and pick a weapon, and take the chance to ask about the feather. Now in Pingyang City, Liang Ku is walking through the area. He thinks that the third elder brother's forge should be nearby. Suddenly, looking behind, a black smoke starts rising, and Wade reflects that it must be near Pingyang, and he'll ask about it later. He arrives at Lu Min's blacksmith shop. There's the sound of a hammer striking metal as he approaches. A young man says the younger brother showed up looking sweaty from the effort. Liang Ku says he found something interesting while fishing in the morning and came to ask him about it. Showing the feather, Lu Min shouts in shock that it's a crimson molt feather of fire, saying it's a real treasure he's found. Wade thinks it's a treasure and asks if he recognizes it. His brother says yes, and that it's an incredible find. Explaining, the young man says it's a feather from a crimson firebird, a rare spirit. When encountering danger, it injects all its life essence into its wings as it spreads out. Among them, one will hold most of this energy, known as the Golden Scarlet. With it, the bird can be reborn, somewhat like a lizard's tail. Wade, excited, asks if it's really that powerful and wonders if this is one of those feathers. Lu Min laughs, saying it's not one of those, but still a great find. Liang Ku then asks what he should do with it. The young man replies that he shouldn't just absorb its energy, he could forge a spiritual weapon with it, asking if he's already decided what kind of equipment he wants. Wade replies that he has already made up his mind, reflecting on the fight with the stone crab. He says a weapon like the one he used would work best underwater and would complement his abilities. Liang Ku then says he's decided to use a spear. Lu Min, surprised, says that's pretty rare in the martial school, noting that while they do have an advantage in reach, they're difficult to control. Wade concludes that he's made his choice and wants the feather as the material for his spear, thinking to himself that he'll finally have a spiritual weapon. Lu Min says that as soon as it's ready, he'll ask someone to let the boy know to come pick it up, and Wade immediately thanks him. Liang Ku, taking the opportunity, asks what that smoke outside is. The young man, looking angry, says that place is the Manhua temple, and that a great fire started there this morning and something appeared that shouldn't have. The place is being consumed from top to bottom because of it. Wade asks what this thing is. Lu Min says they're mountain demons. Some time ago, we see the beautiful Manhua temple before the fire. In the forest near the temple, someone seems to be running as fast as possible. It's a woman, and she already looks very exhausted. She's pregnant and holds her belly as she runs in desperation. The woman arrives at the temple pleading for help. The young man who was sweeping is surprised to hear her. This tired and injured woman begins to say something to the young master, but she loses consciousness before she can finish. The last thing she sees is the boy running to help, and then she finally faints. When the woman wakes up again, she sees two men in front of her and hears someone calling her. That same voice calls for the master, saying the young lady is waking up. The young master is watching her alongside an old bald man who greets her and says she has finally awakened. The woman wakes up confused and asks where she is. The old man replies that this is Manhua temple and asks what happened. She says she came from Huashu City and that 3 months ago she came to Pingyang to visit relatives, but she didn't expect to encounter a group of mysterious bandits. The bandits blindfolded the young woman and took her to a strange place. They removed the blindfold, but she was still tied up. The woman says that place was a real hell, and that the people there had been turned into demons. These people looked more like zombies, and had glowing symbols marked on their bellies. The old man asks if the bandits kidnapped her for ransom. She makes a terrified face and says no, and in fact, what they said was that those people were materials for refining pills. One of the bandits yells for the so-called pill to rise, and the belly of a man starts to glow and swell as he lets out a scream. The hooded bandits press their palms together, and the symbol on the man's belly glows even more. One of the hooded figures takes out a very sinister-looking blade. He raises the blade, ready to do something, and the man screams even louder. Red sticky shapes begin to squirm, until they transform into a small red orb. The hooded man looks at it with a strange smile, his hands all dirty. The red pill floats with a supernatural glow. A man named Alien comments that this is all very strange, and asks his friend Lin to explain what those things in the bellies are. Lin Gaeyoung says this is the pearl fetal pill created by the Great Superior. He explains that the person is given a broth made from the flesh of a mountain spirit. Whether man or woman, their belly will swell, creating a mass of flesh. After 3 months, that mass turns into a fetal pill and can be refined into a pearl fetal pill. It is said that whoever takes this pill becomes immortal. Liang asks if it's really 3 months, and what happens if it goes beyond that. Lin says that if it's not removed within 3 months, it will be born. Liang widens his eyes and asks what he means by that. The man makes a sinister face and says it's better he doesn't know. At the Manhua temple, Someone tells young Master Jiaming that his brother went to inform the authorities and that he should bring vegetarian food to the young lady. Jiaming says he'll do it, already holding a tray with warm food. He opens the door and asks if the young lady is in the room. As no one responds, the boy decides to enter. He sees a shadow lying on the bed and assumes the guest must be asleep. But then he notices something. What is this red liquid beneath his foot? A sound can be heard inside, and the boy becomes frightened. A grotesque and filthy figure appears in the room. Above the waist, it looks deformed, and he wonders what that thing is. Jiaming begins asking the creature about the girl from earlier. He trembles as he questions what was on the bed. The young woman really was there, but she didn't look well at all. Jiaming screams and drops all the food. Then the boy feels a drop fall on his head. He looks up, terrified and shaking. Hanging from the ceiling is another bizarre creature with claws and sharp teeth. The drop Jiaming felt came precisely from that terrifying being. Walking through the forest are 4 men, and one of them is a monk. One of the men thanks young hero Lu for offering his help in the investigation. Without him, they'd have to ask the master to send someone. The hero says there's no need, since it's the duty of all warriors from his martial arts school. Lu remembers Zhang Shang asking him to go to the Fagua temple to help hide just a few victims, and also remove a few things from there. He asks what those things are, but the butler says the warrior doesn't need to know, and that he'll understand when he sees it with his own eyes. Back in the forest, the monk says they're almost at their destination. The Fagua temple now has a sinister atmosphere, but the monk says this is where he lives. He opens the temple's large gate. Lu and the 2 guards are horrified by what they see. Behind the gate, they can see several wounded people, and the warrior asks what happened there. Then the monk seems to remember the young master. He runs off, worried, saying he'll save the boy, while one of the guards tells him not to run and follows after him. The other guard tells Lu that it's better to assess the scene since the monk is not alone. Each injured person has a bite mark that seems to be from a giant insect, though they don't even know if such a large insect exists. Besides that, no one was left whole. The hero wonders if these are the few victims Zhang Xiang spoke of, which clearly is not the case. That's when they notice the stains on the floor. He says the stains are from something that was dragged, as if the victims had been pulled in that direction. Looking toward the inner part of the temple, the man says the stains end there, where the monk and the other guard are right now. The monk is crying, sitting on the floor as the others enter through the door. They are shocked at what they see inside the temple. The guard asks what the hell this is and what happened in this place, and Lu wonders if this is what Zhang Xiang wanted removed. They look at something that resembles an egg, with several deformed creatures around it, and the guard says all the victims are there. The monk is terrified and can only repeat a mantra. Suddenly, the door closes behind the 4 of them. One of them asks who's there. He keeps asking who closed the door, while Lu says it doesn't matter. What's inside the egg is about to come out. The guard wants to know what those things are. They seem to be mountain demon eggs, and the warrior says it's the mark of the Ghost Mother sect. The other man asks if it's really from the Ghost Mother sect, one of the few remnants of the ancient dynasty. Lu says that when a mountain demon is born and absorbs enough flesh, it begins to prepare for the second phase. Now that the nest is ready, the egg will move on to the next stage. This next phase is of a creature with the strength of a wild, uncontrollable warhorse. The poor guard becomes terrified just imagining a massive beast with no control. That's when a clawed hand bursts out from inside the egg. The creature plants its slimy arm on the ground. It's born, the second phase of the mountain demon. The monk trembles upon seeing this horrifying being in front of him and keeps repeating his mantra non-stop. The creature is so fast that it's barely visible as it charges straight at them. It lands a direct hit on the monk. The other guard shouts for the young monk. He runs to help, ignoring his friend who begs him to wait. The creature stares at the man with glowing eyes and enormous teeth. Its hand grabs the guard by the face and throws him to the ground. He gets struck and crashes down hard. The demon grabs him again, and the poor man begs hero Lu to save him. But Lu realizes that this creature has already reached the second phase, and he himself hasn't broken through the 4 barriers yet. He thinks he should give up, that he could use his strength to break the door easily. But what if this monster escapes? A desperate scream comes from the man's mouth as the creature holds him. The hero decides that the most important thing is to survive, that he has always lived this way, always adapted. If he closes his eyes and can't see, if his father is safe, but acting like this is disgusting, Lu thinks while the guard continues to beg for his help. The warrior finally draws his sword, and the monster turns its attention toward him. Lu makes a motion through the air with his sword as the demon prepares to charge. Standing in front of the man, our hero says that today is the day he'll test the strength of a wild warhorse. Holding a wooden sword, a young boy says that one day he'll be a great hero like Gang Dongshan, recognized throughout the country. A little girl tells Lu that he's really cool, and he says he's going to the city with his father. His father says they're going to work at Master Zhao's house, and the boy believes this is his chance. The girl smiles and says the warrior will make it. Sometime later, a young Zhao Xu Yuan laughs at Lu lying on the ground, convinced he'd never get into the martial arts school. The boy even says that a motherless trash like him should rot along with his sick father for the rest of his life. Now in another place, someone is coughing. In a room, the father takes care of the little warrior and asks if he fought with young Master Zhao, but his son says Zhao started it. The The man calls Lu a fool and says he shouldn't draw attention outside the house, just respect his elders and be humble. Our young hero looks regretful and says he understood what his father meant. But his father ends by saying that no matter what happens, he must become someone he himself can respect. Lu wonders what his master would do as he remembers him saying that everyone who follows him must be humble and open-minded. And then he returns to the present, seeing the demon in front of him, still remembering the master's words that his followers should never be arrogant. Lu charges forward with his sword in hand. He's heading straight for the monster, but he keeps thinking about how his master said he must respect elders and never act with malice. His sword cuts through the air while the words still echo in his mind, saying he must stand for justice and fight for what is right. The creature dodges the sword strike. Our hero keeps trying to land a blow, and his master's voice says he must never do evil or pick on the weak. The flame of a candle falls on a book and starts to spread. Lu Shou, he remembers how Master Yang had a firm posture, a strong gaze, feet planted solidly on the ground, and a long blade at his waist. Back in the present again, the hero struggles to hold his sword against the monster's strength. He keeps fighting, but he also keeps thinking of that blade that slashed, pierced, and spun, shining like gold and sapphire. The creature dodges, and his mind recalls how the reflection of that blade used to cut through darkness like rays of sunlight, forcing the opponent to surrender. Lu prepares for another strike, one more attempt to land a hit. His memory takes him back to Master Yang, and how the wind swirled as the sky darkened while the master fought monsters alone, even while wounded. The demon manages to grab Lu Shou's arm, and he grips his sword tightly. Our warrior leaps away from the macabre being. He stands in the midst of the fire with his sword when he apologizes to the guard, saying he had to make a sacrifice because he couldn't let the monster escape. It seems the fight caused some minor destruction. Fortunately, the creature wasn't that strong yet. The young man tells the guard that it's alright, because they did something good, and Lu is a hero. He questions the part where he's called a hero, thinking of people like Wade. The warrior says many out there deserve the title of hero more than he does. In his childhood, Lu sees himself hearing Zhou Xu Yuan telling him to fight other children for him and ordering him to do as he says. The spiteful boy even says that if he doesn't, then Lu himself will become the victim. The poor children just watch, terrified. The boy begins to say something, but he's too disturbed. Looking down, he can only think how sorry he feels. Lu imagines that he has to do this. He needs to rise above others to become someone powerful. Time has passed, and the sun shines over Manhua Temple. Men are investigating the site, now burned down. One of them shouts that he found someone, and that it's over there. 3 of these men come across a human-shaped form already reduced to ashes and wonder what they went through. This humanoid shape is holding a sword above another being, and they ask who these people were. Beside the ashes is a small golden object. A man crouches down to pick it up. He holds in his hand a golden pendant with a symbol. In the past, a hand holds a bun and offers it to someone. The 2 children from before are surprised and ask why he's helping. Lu, looking like he went through a lot, replies that it's because he's a hero, and heroes never pick on the weak. At night, in a mansion, someone is yelling and calling another useless. Zhang Xiang lies on the floor while Master Zhao accuses him of being stupid for acting without thinking. The master asks if he has any idea what kind of trouble he could have caused his superior if the issue at Manhua Temple had been exposed. Xiang remains bowed and says he was only making a quick decision based on the situation. He says that when they found out the woman had escaped, they went after her immediately, but no one expected she'd run to the temple. By the time they managed to catch up to her, the place was already in chaos. Zhang Xiang had no choice and let Lu Shouhui call the authorities as a distraction while they dealt with the mountain demon. When he entered the warehouse, they quickly shut the doors behind him and set the place on fire to destroy all the evidence. The master grabs the butler by the ear and asks what good that fire is supposed to do. It would take 3 days and 3 nights to burn everything, and he didn't have that kind of time. A mysterious man who was watching the scene yells that that's enough. He grips the armrest of the chair and says they're all responsible for this mess. The man stands up and comments that the fact they couldn't capture the girl caused a huge loss. He stands beside a young man, claws in hand, and says their actions lack sincerity toward the Supreme Mother. With an unfriendly expression, the mysterious figure finishes by saying that lack of sincerity must be punished. His claws grab the trembling boy's head, now filled with fear. This man, who looks like a skeleton, says this is the Supreme Mother's will and squeezes his hand. The boy collapses to the ground, and the others are horrified by what they see. This pale, thin man tells Master Zhao that he has contributed greatly to the sect and the Supreme Mother will bless him, but he adds that the master must not forget they're in the same boat. Master Zhao says he'll clean up the mess for sure. Then the man makes a sinister expression and asks Butler Zheng if he's willing to hand over his son. Zheng Xiang immediately bows and promises this will never happen again. The man walks away saying he'll leave the situation in the hands of Master Zhao and his butler, letting out a loud, eerie laugh. The other 2 watch as he walks away. Master Zhao lets out a sigh of relief. Zheng Xiang tells his master that now the other butler is threatening them. Zhao becomes frustrated and says there's nothing he can do, but he only listens to that old man because of his family's power and wealth. He says Shang was smart to follow the plan. letting that woman give birth to the demon and using the victims from the temple to feed the beast. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had another chance. The master says that now that everything is going well, they need to find a way to escape, and that the court is already moving. When the Manhua temple problem is resolved, they'll flee to Gwangju. He has an institution there and can still live like an immortal. Zhao smiles, saying that the Tai Zhu Dan can also continue there, without meddlers like Gang Dongshan interfering in his business. The master says that if they don't want to be expelled by Dashun, they need to control the damage. That's the safest way. Now we move to the Yixing market, near the village entrance. Wade never imagined that Lu Shouhui would end up like that. According to Li Bo, he fought for justice and seemed like a decent person. He remembers an outraged man ordering someone to stop, but the boy wonders what Lu was doing at the Manhua temple. His older brother said the school didn't receive any request from the authorities that day. Our boy finds himself thinking about the mountain demon and how cruel the world is, but hopes the monster isn't still there. He hears a voice asking if that wasn't Wade. Chen King Jiang is happy to see the protagonist has returned, and the protagonist asks Uncle Chen what's going on. The uncle says he should go home and see it with his own eyes. There's a crowd in front of his house. In the distance, a centipede moves on top of a rock. A clawed hand squeezes the creature while speaking about immortality. The hand belonged to the mountain demon, and the creature simply repeats the name Liang Qiu. Outside a house, someone is heard shouting that something is wrong. The person yells again, this time saying it's totally wrong. The screams are from Xu Chengquan, and he says this is awful and there's far too much suffering. His son Dingy tells his father he's already done enough since he's been lying there for half an hour. He's tied up and shouts that they don't need to go that far over a simple fisherman. The father hits the boy with a stick. The man calls his son disloyal and wonders how someone as charismatic as him could have such a dumb child, while the boy begs him to stop. Cheng Quan keeps going and says he deserves the punishment. Inside the house, someone is watching the scene. There are two people. One of them says they were wrong to think the martial arts school would straighten out that boy, while the other asks when she ever said that. The first is Liang Ku's aunt and says they never really trusted the boy, but he still came after them anyway. The man is Uncle Guangshen, and he yells that she's an ignorant woman who doesn't understand anything, but she just asks him not to get angry. This shady uncle decides they've talked enough and goes back to watching the boy's punishment. The punishment continues until Wade arrives and asks what Su Dingy is doing at his doorstep. Dingy calls his father a scoundrel, but Cheng Quan praises the protagonist, saying he looks great. The man walks toward our boy and says he must be nephew Lang Ku. Cheng Quan smiles and says the boy has good posture and is respectable, as expected of a personal disciple of Master Yang. A man who was watching asks if he's talking about the master of Yang martial arts school, the great hero Yang Dongshan. And another man says that means the master truly recognized his talent, and even the city magistrate respects the old man. The crowd is surprised to hear that even the magistrate owes Yang respect. Soon everyone starts talking about Wade, saying they always knew he'd achieve something great, that he's handsome, and that he should start thinking about marriage. Cheng Quan says he never imagined his son would do something so shameful, and offers the stick to our boy so he can deliver the punishment himself. Wade takes the stick with a terrifying look on his face and gets excited as he asks if he can do whatever he wants to him. Our suspicious protagonist says he holds no grudge, but that a man doesn't live long if he carries accumulated resentment. Liang Ku's eyes even shine when he says that everyone wants to live a long life, and he asks the boy what he has to say. The poor kid is already sweating in fear and begs Liang Ku to be kind, promising he'll never make a mistake again and even offering to work as his servant. Wade lowers the stick and says he'll let it go. He says the boy has suffered enough and that he was just a lackey, and the other breathes a sigh of relief. Cheng Quan interrupts the two, and Dingy wonders if he's really his father since he seems to want him to suffer. The man continues, saying that nephew Liang is generous, but he can't be ungrateful, and one of his servants brings in a tray. People around are shocked to see that the tray holds 200 taels of silver, and someone says their son finally got to see real silver. Suddenly, the protagonist's uncle bursts through the door, telling everyone to step aside because his dear nephew is here. Wangshen says he's Wade's true uncle and closest relative, so any matters involving money should be discussed with him. Someone tells the man to be ashamed because when the boy was starving, he never helped, and now that money is involved, he wants to act like a loving uncle. The not-so-loving uncle says they know nothing, that his nephew knows who his real uncle is, and that without him, the boy wouldn't be where he is today. Meanwhile, Cheng Quan asks Wade who that man is, and he says he has no idea. In Liang Ku's memory, that uncle was never kind, just a parasite, and even when the boy was starving, the man never offered even a grain of rice. The protagonist turns to Cheng Quan and says that if he really wants to do something, he should invest in the River Gods Festival, because every capable man should contribute. He walks away, saying that since Master Xui is so generous, he should donate in place of the other villagers, and even set up a porridge stall for the beggars. Everyone cheers and praises Wade for being so kind. The young man arrives home, happy that he finally completed his tasks. Wade stretches and thinks about how he trained to refine his skin at the martial arts school, and felt like he had reached his limit. He's stretching his neck when he realizes he might be able to break through the skin gate today. Water is poured into the bathtub. Wade dips his hand in and thinks that the final breakthrough will generate much more heat than before, and that a single mistake could be really bad, so he must cool down. He enters the water, closes his eyes, and decides he'll begin now. Wade is inside the bathtub, and the water is already steaming. His eyes are closed as he concentrates. A drop of sweat runs down his face amidst the steam. A whirlpool of energy begins to form around him. That energy flows through his entire body. He realizes that he's finally broken through the skin barrier. Doing a quick calculation, Wade now has a water control capacity of 250 kilograms, far more than before. He puts on his shirt but thinks that the fusion doesn't seem to have improved much in the system. Liang Ku says he didn't expect breaking the skin barrier to have such a strong effect. If he breaks all 4 barriers, he'll be able to handle tons. His 2 skills complement each other, and with half the effort, he already gets double the result. Nothing beats that. Wade grabs the doorknob and says it's time for a little walk. As he opens the door, it slams right into a man's face. Guangxin falls to the ground, complaining. He holds his red nose and pretends to be happy to see his dear nephew. Wade doesn't seem fazed by it and simply asks if his uncle was looking for him. Guangxin smiles while holding a sack and says he was worried about his nephew, so he emptied his pantry and brought some rice. The young man tells his uncle to keep the rice since he doesn't need food anymore, and he thinks about how rice is an expensive food in this world. Wade is about to close the door when the leech stops him and tells him to wait. The protagonist opens the door again and ends up patting his uncle on the head. He falls to the ground, whining once more. Guangxin gets indignant and asks what the young man is doing to his uncle. After all, he's his only uncle, and believes that house should belong to him. Other people watch while the clueless man yells that Liang Ku is insane for not accepting the money Cheng Quan offered. He's furious and says that Wade should have used that money to help his cousin Xiao Liu, that he could have been like a father to the boy. Liang Ku gives off a somewhat sinister aura as he tells Guangxin he can go drink milk with mango if he wants. The uncle is shocked and wonders if the boy was always this tall or changed that much in a matter of minutes. Still lying on the ground, the man yells that his nephew is ungrateful, that now he's become a martial arts master and doesn't care about his family anymore. The shouting is cut off when Guangxin gets spit right in the face. A woman asks what kind of uncle he is if he didn't help when Liang Ku's father passed away, not even offering food when the boy was starving. Another woman accuses the man of pulling a scam when the inheritance was divided, leaving the boy's father with only a boat. Guangxin asks what gutter these crazy women crawled out of and says they have no right to speak about this, threatening to lash out. They answer that he can try, but they'll lash out first, and the man feels a sharp jab in his stomach. Village Chief Li asks if Guangxin only shows up when a Shri manages to get ahead in life, saying even animals aren't that disgusting. The crowd chases the fool away, and the chief yells that he doesn't want to see Liang Ku's uncle around there again. Not everyone would dare mess with that guy, even the old master had to step in. Wade thanks Grandpa Village Chief and asks why he was looking for him. Old Li asks the boy to be the master of ceremonies for the next river festival. Liang Ku thinks about how the master of ceremonies is like a priest who leads the festival, and that maybe it's a good opportunity. Thinking about the system, he imagines that maybe he'll discover what the river's favors for on the day of the festival. Wade accepts Grandpa's offer, and the old man is happy, reminding him that he'll need to memorize the ritual texts over the next few days. The next morning at sunrise, a cute song plays. The sun shines above, the flowers smile at me. The birds chirp good morning, because you carry your little backpack, and Wade is still really sleepy. He doesn't know much about the characters in this world, and also has to memorize the ritual texts, so he had no choice. Wade has reincarnated and is now a student in ancient times. Inside the school in the morning, an old man reads a book that says discipline brings comfort, honor, and wealth, and one must be cautious of the wicked because they are incompetent by nature. Liang Ku looks frustrated, thinking they only said he had to go to school. But no one told him it would be elementary school. A little girl points at Wade, saying he barely said a word in class. The teacher still holds the book but stops reading. He tells Liang Ku not to be arrogant, that letting a brute like him attend school is already a favor to his master. The old man says he should be grateful to have such a good teacher, since the boy knows so little. Wade begins repeating everything the old man read. Obey the leaders, serve the officials, respect authority. Discipline brings comfort, honor, and wealth. Be cautious of the wicked because they are incompetent by nature. The education is complete and covers all subjects. Insects, plants, weapons and armor, beasts, tigers, and all kinds of strange things. Everyone is shocked when Wade says he already memorized everything, and he thinks this is easy for someone who was a top university student in his past life. The boy smiles and says he thinks this method of teaching is ineffective. But the old man gets furious and says these are sacred teachings passed down through generations. Wade can't possibly understand. He finishes by saying he's not underestimating the boy, but a brute like him shouldn't act so cocky. Wade explains that the Fanky method might work, but it's far too hard and requires a person to already know the characters. The boy also says the method he developed turns the characters into symbols, and each symbol represents a pronunciation. Wade calls this method the pinyin system. Another man suddenly enters and comments that the boy's method resembles Fanki, but it's much simpler. This man is named Sai Hengi, and he asks Wade to explain more about this system of symbols. The children are shocked because he's a respected teacher from the capital of the Great Shun dynasty. The elder makes a respectful gesture to Master Sai. Outside the school, there are 3 people, and a bird flies past. Master Sai finds the method interesting, but the old man won't accept such blasphemy and says it makes no sense. The respected teacher says that in the Shun dynasty, there's a reward system for inventors. If they create something useful, they can receive prizes and even titles. Wade imagines that this is it. The only way not to raise suspicion is to stand out. Master Sai calls Liang Ku talented and invites the boy to be his student, while the other teacher still doesn't understand. The man turns to him and says there's no status difference between intellectuals and warriors. It's what his own teacher taught him. This man gets nervous and says something that bold might not please the leaders. Master Sai assures old Master Zhang that he doesn't need to worry. He says he'll question the things his students can't question. The things his students can't change, the teacher will change. Wade bows respectfully and says goodbye to his new teacher. Now somewhere else, underwater, Immovable the crocodile hits a ball. Punho catches the ball with an impressive block. Chubby makes a blub blub sound because he knows there's no escape. Poor Catfish just stares at the ball, awaiting his end. Punho throws it with all his crab strength, and Chubby gets hit square on. Poor guy. The fish goes flying, and Immovable is completely shocked. He hit something with such force that the thing even cracked. But a blue light shines from within the crack. It was a giant bell, now cracked, and the light begins to spread underwater. At night, Wade and Immovable are swimming at the bottom of the river. The crocodile looks up, all happy. Our boy says he gets it. The wind goes to the little guy. He arrives at the location of the tunnel. Punho and Chubby are in front, and Wade asks if this is the tunnel they dug. Immovable slaps his belly and points forward. The protagonist realizes that Immovable just wants to talk about how awesome he is. Wade enters the tunnel full of glowing algae and sees it's even bigger than he imagined. He wonders if the blue light is coming from the algae and thinks there's more space above. Touching the algae, the boy feels it's soft in texture. Of course, the animal goes to bite it, but he can't and ends up disappointed. Wade calls Immovable, Chubby, and Punho to move forward. The four of them reach a part of the tunnel where there's no more water, and the boy is surprised to see there's air inside. He continues with Punho on his shoulder and notices that all the glowing algae are coming from the same place. Behind the boy, a beetle approaches. The creature moves toward Wade, but he dodges quickly. This weird thing hits the rocks with tremendous force. Wade looks at the many-lighted creature and says it was too slow. He had noticed its presence for a while. Analyzing the creature, the boy realizes it's a water centipede. The centipede moves with incredible speed. It's coming after him again. Punho blocks the attack with his powerful claw. The creature retreats, and Wade notices Punho has grown significantly, but the centipede hasn't stopped moving. The crab uses his claw again, grabbing the centipede. He lifts the creature, and the protagonist congratulates his tough-shelled friend. The boy says a water centipede's bite force is terrifying, and more importantly, they have a weapon feared by martial artists, poison. Wade thinks that if he can control this creature, he'll have a secret weapon in hand, and he still has space for another spirit bond. He grabs a small sharp stone. The protagonist runs the stone across his finger, and it breaks. His body is too strong after breaking the last barrier. He only manages a small scratch and thinks he needs to talk to Big Brother Lou about buying a knife. Wade brings his finger close to the water centipede. A symbol shines in the air. It's a domain sigil. The boy widens his eyes upon realizing how dangerous this creature is. It's as strong as a crocodile. He's relieved to see he succeeded. He subdued this water beast. Seeing how powerful it is, he decides to name it Sino, and it can evolve into a winged water centipede with 10,000 water essence points. Wade is horrified because every new beast he tames gets more and more expensive. He asks where the centipede ate the water mushroom spirit, and it starts walking to show the way. Seno arrives at a small opening between the rocks. The boy notices how dark it is inside and finds it kind of scary. Inside that dark place lies a skeleton. Wade recognizes the skeleton because of a scripture in front of it, which says it's the former Navy General of Kion, still in the cave sometime later. Wade, Zeno, Fist, and Still are standing in front of the skeleton. The boy tries to connect the information. Great Kian, Water Vanguard, and ended his own life, but he can't read all the words. Liang Ku says it doesn't look like this guy just collapsed there. Maybe there's some ancient battlefield nearby or a spiritual weapon. He guesses the water mushroom spirit is inside the box and already apologizes for disturbing the bony one. The mushroom really is inside the box, and Wade figures Xeno must have eaten the other one. Our boy promises the ancient general that he will bury his remains beneath a field of spiritual lotus flowers. He smiles as he says it's time to level up, and this time he needs to surpass 50 points. Wade starts dividing, 1/6 for Still, half of that for Fist, and Fatty and Sino don't need any since Sino already ate a whole one. The protagonist grabs the glowing mushroom and decides the rest is all his. He puts it all in his mouth at once. The boy jumps with joy when he realizes it's soft like tofu and gains 216 water essence points. That's even more than Crab Bro, he thinks, wondering if he could use all of it to level up. His hand touches the system and he sees that a new function has been unlocked, Water Leap. Liang Ku activates the water monkey energy and lights up everything around him. The boy is surprised when he feels something in his chest. An orange light begins to glow from his body. It spreads across his chest like a flame. The protagonist smiles as he notices the light growing even stronger. He brings his hands together and the energy stops flowing. Wade decides it's time to test this new ability. The water moves almost like a spiral. It wraps around the boy's body as he uses his water leap, but he slams right into a rock. Wade feels dizzy and realizes it's a movement skill, but it uses up a lot of energy and is hard to control. He remembers that he gained another ability besides this one, 1 mile water step, and it must be amazing. The boy controls the water above his body, saying his water control has increased to 400 kilos, which is impressive. Wade also notices that each of the creatures evolved by 200 to 500 points. He finds it odd that Fatty surpassed the others, but thinks maybe there's some kind of catfish system or something. The boy lets out a laugh while the fish looks slightly worried. Liang Ku remembers that the river festival is a week away and plans to use the time to study with his master, but then he realizes something. Our protagonist believes the new water ability might be connected to the festival. 1 week later, at the start of winter, Li Bo knocks on the door, calling Wade for the river festival. Our boy calls his centipede Xeno. She starts to wrap around his hand. Xeno transforms into a centipede bracelet. Wade raises his arm to the doorknob to open the door. He steps outside saying it's time to go to the festival. The crowd is already gathered at the location, which is fully decorated for the event. A little girl is standing next to a goat. That girl suddenly starts crying. Her mother asks what's wrong and why she's crying. She looks very scared and says there's a monster in the alley. The mother tells her to stop making things up and asks what monster she's talking about. The woman tells the girl to stop crying and offers her some candy, but a purple light can be seen in a corner of the village. Hidden behind the alley is the mountain demon, radiating a sinister aura. He opens his mouth full of teeth only to repeat the words immortality and Liang Q. 3 men are beating drums at the festival. People walk by carrying heads and talking about the offering of an animal sacrifice. Someone shouts for the shaman to get in position. The shaman tells the ceremony leader to proceed. That leader is Liang Q, and he's standing in front of the stairs. After climbing, the boy moves closer to the sacrifices. The shaman says the ritual is about to begin. Wade starts reading the text, saying to the river god that you carry the people's hopes and offers this sacrifice. From afar, Li Bo stands next to Ji Chang, watching his friend. He notices that Wade seems grandiose now. The boy doesn't know what happened to his friend, even though they grew up together. Seeing his new demeanor, he wonders if Liang Ku is still the same person as before. On top of a roof, the mountain demon moves. The bald demon watches the people at the festival, but the protagonist senses the creature's presence. He remembers that this totally bizarre being is the mountain demon Brother Lu had talked about. Its bark-like skin looks exactly like the drawing in Hao Mutang's notes. The monster is watching the same little girl from before. She notices this and starts screaming, saying it's the same monster she saw in the alley and calling for her mother. The demon makes strange noises while the people panic and ask what that thing is. It jumps off the roof at high speed, leaving a hole in the tile. Some villagers scream that there's a monster and run away, but the creature is way too fast. Liang Ku tells people to split up. In the middle of the panicked crowd, the little girl is alone and can't find her mother. The mother is desperate and yells out for her daughter Nair. Nair is crying when the monster turns its attention to her. It leaps toward her with its hollow eyes and giant mouth. Wade also panics, realizing he won't make it in time to save the girl. Li Bo sees this horrible situation. Nair's mother screams her name again. The young man gets in the way and saves the little girl. He falls to the ground holding the child and tells the other to hang in there just a little longer. Seeing this, the demon goes after the two of them. The boy says he hasn't been idle these last few days and decides to back. The dagger flies through the air. It's a new trick he learned. But of course, the big monster isn't stupid and notices it in time. That bizarre demon dodges the dagger by ducking and still keeps charging at full speed. Li Bo is frustrated to see that his strike missed. The beast looks even scarier as it turns toward the boy. He yells out for Wade, telling him to do something now if he's got a trick up his sleeve. The creature's sharp claws are about to reach him, but some water and bubbles start forming. Our protagonist finally shows up, ready for battle, with his newest ability. Liang Ku got there so quickly because he used the 1 mile water step, nearly closing the gap to his ugly opponent in seconds. He lands a solid hit on the demon and even cracks a bit of the surface behind it. Wei feels slightly relieved for making it just in time. The monster is now getting close to Chen Ji Chang's boy. The protagonist is worried and thinks it's too late. He realizes that the water in the barrel came from the river and remembers that the 1 mile water step uses water, so he decides to use that. Wade places his hand in the water and commands it to rise. His hand moves through the air, causing the liquid to form spirals. Ji Chang is stunned. Liang Ku is transported by the water and is about to stop the creature's attack. He hits dead on, causing a massive impact. Our boy celebrates having arrived in time, while the other kid just stays in shock. The boy starts stammering, trying to understand what just happened. Wade looks at his friend and tells him to grab the little girl and leave, leaving the rest to him. Ji Chang says he understands, picks up the girl to get her out of there, and says he'll come back to help soon. Our boy looks at the smoke left from the destruction he caused and wonders why that demon is here. When the dust settles, he realizes the beast has simply vanished. Behind the boy, the fiend approaches, ready to strike. The boy defends himself, crossing his arms just as the creature uses its claws. He escapes without injuries, but is shocked by the strength of that bastard. That bizarre monster attacks again and again, but Wade manages to dodge. The boy is already sweating, but realizes this is his chance to land a hit. Liang Ku strikes the demon with all his strength, letting out a furious roar. Chen Ji Chang is back and brings Li Bo along to help. The two are ready to finish off this monster. Wade realizes that immobilizing the creature would be a good idea, so he grabs its arm tightly. He yells for his friends to aim for the bald guy's joints instead of attacking blindly. Ji Chang and Li Bo do their job well. The demon lets out a horrifying noise as it takes damage. Our boy decides that this still isn't enough. Liang Ku hits the creature once again with a solid kick. The bald guy flies far away, even trailing smoke. But Wade isn't finished yet and sends Sino in to attack. The centipede goes straight for the monster's neck. She bites into that weird skin, and the protagonist figures it can't be pleasant. Since her venom is no joke, the scrawny body of that devil even starts trembling a bit. But he refuses to give up and already looks at the villagers, eager to stir up more trouble. This annoying hell demon tries to attack again, and the people get scared. Liang Ku says he doesn't stand a chance and grabs a wooden log. He throws the log without a second thought. The log hits the creature in a rather nasty way. As if that weren't enough, Wade goes over and pushes the log with his knee. Our boy wonders if it's finally over, but the monster still starts muttering his name and some weird stuff about immortality. From afar, the villagers find it very strange that this thing can talk. They ask what the hell it is and wonder if it might be a punishment from the river god. Ji Chang notices that the people don't seem okay, and Li Bo says that if this keeps up, no one will be able to live in peace. Looking at what's left of the monster, the protagonist says that it was actually a gift. He goes on to say it was a blessing for Yixing village. Wade holds a very sharp object. The boy grabs the demon and says it's the perfect offering to the river god, while the system shows that he gained 1 point in favor of the river. It's morning in Yixing village, and the monster's head is already part of the offering for the river god's ritual. Wade is sitting in a corner while the other people look at what's left of the battle. To defeat the monster, he had to break through the skin barrier, and after that, the synchronization level skyrocketed. Now he's stronger than a regular warrior. He looks at the system and thinks that he's finally evolved from just alive to insignificant. On top of that, there was Sino's venom. Without it, things could have gone very wrong. But the most important thing is that he gained the river's favor and his natural ability can evolve, though the total favor is still very low. The old village chief tells Wade the doctor has arrived. After checking the boy's physique, the doctor compliments him, saying his arms are like a chimpanzee's and his waist like a wasp's. He thanks him but gets a little embarrassed and asks the man to focus on the wound. The man finally starts doing his job and asks what materials were used to make his cape and robe. Liang Ku replies that the cape was a gift from Yu Dun, made of strong as steel bear dog hide, and the robe came from Chong Song, made of celestial larva silk. But the doctor says that wouldn't be enough, and judging by the depth of the wound, it looks like the boy broke through the skin barrier. Everyone around is shocked by our boy's capability and starts asking if he really broke that barrier. Wade says yes, and people start congratulating him and saying he'll bring great honor to the village. Li Bo says his friend is now a true martial arts master, and that all of this happened in just a few months. Ji Chang feels a bit upset, thinking that he still can't catch up to Liang Ku's level. Wang Shen was hiding among the villagers and hopes our hero won't come after him, since he's way too strong now. The village chief asks the boy what that monster was, and someone comments that everyone had been worried about it. He explains that the monster was a mountain demon that feeds on ketchup and probably showed up because of the crowd's ketchup cravings. Wade doesn't know if there are more mountain demons nearby, but since 3 of them appeared at once, it seems kind of suspicious. The people get seriously concerned when they hear the boy say he found it suspicious. A man asks if the demon's head doesn't look a little familiar. Others recognize it. It's that scumbag Lai Tu, and someone asks what the hell happened to him. Liang Ku is really surprised to discover it was Lai Tu. He starts connecting the dots. Zhao's alchemy, mountain demons, the Lu clan, Lai Tu, and the Fagua temple. The boy gets frustrated for not realizing earlier that they're using alchemy to create mountain demons. Wade informs the village chief that he needs to go to Pingyang to tell everything to his master, as he believes that demon was Lai Tu. Our boy is determined to get answers from them, no matter what happens. Now the story shifts to Pingyang. Madame Yang asks what Liang Ku is doing there since he almost never shows up. The young man greets his master's wife and says he has something important to tell him. Elsewhere in the residence, Wade says that the mountain demon incidents must be connected to the Zhao family. Shushi lets out a little laugh and says he's a very clever boy. No wonder the master respects him so much. The protagonist questions the fact that she seemed to already know about this. She laughs again and says she knew the boy would get nervous, but he mustn't forget who his master is. It's none other than Yang Dongshan, the greatest and only tiger hunter in the kingdom, now at the great fortress of the Ghost Mother sect. The hooded figures are climbing the stairs when one of them hears a noise. They realize they're under attack and call for the alarm to be sounded. A massive glowing blade appears in the sky. This blade heads toward the sect members. Master Yang appears surrounded by flames and says that now that he has arrived, the scoundrels must surrender to the Mighty One. Wade's fist slams into the wooden post. He's been at the master's house for 2 days, and Madame told him to stay in the sparring courtyard to avoid interfering with their plan. Shu Shai even gave him a silver bar worth 2,000 wen to cover his expenses. The protagonist remembers how happy he was to receive the silver bar, and the woman challenged him to say it wouldn't be enough. Wade thinks that thanks to the healing pill he got from Madame, his injury is already getting better. The master and his wife believe that the Ghost Mother sect is about to launch a major attack on warriors to refine pills, so they left him there for his safety. Suddenly, an orange comes flying at high speed toward the boy. He defends himself with a precise strike. The fruit hits the wall and even cracks it a little. Wade looks to the side and asks who's there. It's Big Brother Hu, and he praises the boy's reflexes while training to toss fruit on signal. The man says that he heard Liang Ku was in town as soon as he returned and knew he'd be there, so the boy asks if he came back today. Tossing a spear to the boy, Hu says he was handling a few little issues and invites him to a friendly spear duel. Wade warns that he's not going to hold back. He seems excited to fight as he asks to keep chatting while they spar. The older brother throws another orange in the air and grabs his spear. Our boy is a bit surprised by the fruit's speed. Hu strikes with the wooden shaft, but Liang Ku manages to block it. The two spears clash as they both go on the offensive. Wade makes a quick move with his weapon. Hu sees a chance to land a hit. He tries to follow through with his strike, but the boy defends. Even so, the protagonist ends up letting go of his spear. The other warrior doesn't ease up and keeps fighting, and Liang Ku has to defend using only his leg. Our boy readies his fist for action, while his friend praises his agility. An orange hits the ground but stays intact. Hu realizes the boy has already reached the skin barrier, and says that at this pace, it seems like he's got a destined pattern. Wade asks what a destined pattern is. The older brother says that Liang Ku's destined pattern day isn't far off, and that the master will explain, then asks to keep spurring. Our boy agrees and tells him to continue the battle. Their spears keep clashing, and Hu gives a few tips so the protagonist won't lose his strength. Looks like someone got really tired after all that training. What Wade said about the Zhao family matches what the man investigated, but something feels off. Our protagonist questions this, and Hu explains that it almost seems like they wanted to leave a trail, but he thinks he might be getting too paranoid and tells him to let it go. Hu recommends a book called The Curve Force Method, which is perfect for a beginner warrior at the skin barrier. Martial techniques are divided into movement and force techniques control the energy of the entire body. Hu asks Liang Ku to use that technique to fight him again after he finishes the book. Wade thanks him, but asks why the man was looking for him, and the guy replies it was a request from elder brother Lu. Our boy is happy to hear that the spiritual weapon made by Lu is finally ready. Meanwhile, in another location, we see chains and something very suspicious. It's another monster, chained up and calling out for its father. This demon is in some sort of prison, and a hooded man tells a few people to hurry up. The man is Lin Gaiyong, and those people don't look very happy to be there. Looking at a young woman, the bandit thinks she looks about the same age as his daughter. Another hooded figure asks what Lin is doing there, since Lord Wu is still waiting. Sect members inform the Lord that the ingredients for the pill are almost ready, and that they'll be able to feed the monster in 3 days. He replies that it's very good since this mutant is special, and the ingredients for the pill are very important. In another cell, several people are suffering from being imprisoned there. An older man seems sick and coughs several times. He calls out for the young master while coughing. Those with explosive personalities handle explosive weapons, those who are gentle handle tranquilizing ones. A metal bar is being heated in the fire. Softening tungsten metal is the first step to refine the essence and increase its resistance. Activating the latent energy of the feather is the second step, and then letting it be absorbed by the tungsten. Lu moves his hands and symbols appear in the middle of the flames. This here is Shadow Bat skin, and it'll serve as the base for the spear's shape. Lu calls Wade to come quickly, and the boy says he's on his way. A spiritual weapon must be forged with its owner's gooseberry to complete the final step, spiritual induction. Wade tosses his gooseberry into the fire, and the flames dance around the spear. The feather's energy is released and rises in the shape of a great firebird. Lu holds the weapon by his red handle, ready to finalize the process. The spear starts to release flames that rise up from the tip. The elder brother wonders if the weapon's spirit is rejecting Liang Ku's gooseberry. He gets a bit annoyed at the thought that the bird is still stubborn, even after having already passed on to a better place. His arm moves quickly. Lu struggles but manages to control the stubborn spirit. Tired, the man informs the protagonist that his weapon is finally ready and tells him to try it out. Our boy stares at the spear, thinking this is his spiritual weapon. He grabs it by the handle and realizes it's heavy, around 54 kilos. The boy lifts the heavy object, then the tip hits the ground, cracking the surface a little. He swings his beautiful weapon through the air, leaving flames in its wake. Wei feels a connection to this spear, like they share the same breath and the same gooseberry. Lu tells him there are wooden stakes outside and suggests he give it a try. The boy performs several precise and impressive movements, training his strikes. His friend praises his skill, but reminds him that the protagonist still hasn't given the spear a name. Our boy decides to name his spiritual weapon Fubo. Someone else arrives, surprising the two, and says it looks like Wade's weapon is ready. It's elder brothers Hugh and Seo. The hero asks what his green-haired friend is doing there, who seems annoyed as he says he wasn't investigating like he should have, and Xu says taverns and opera houses are great places to gather intel. Lu asks if the fourth brother found anything useful, and he replies that he may have found a hideout. He says he was admiring the flowers, though that doesn't sound very believable. Sue was enjoying himself with a beautiful woman when some hooded men passed by. He notices and thinks that wearing black in broad daylight is basically asking for trouble. But another young woman calls the green-haired guy to drink with her and her friends, and he looks pretty excited. Either way, Sebzu followed the men in black and found their hideout near the Fagua temple. Lu thinks they can now proceed with the task their master gave them, and his friend says a direct approach would be more effective. The oldest one agrees and says they'll strike the hideout tomorrow, and Hugh agrees. Hugging Wade, the green-haired man says our boy is going too, and Wade questions that. Chu says it's about time the hero gets his hands dirty with ketchup. There's no avoiding it, especially since his master made so many enemies. Lu steps in and tells Liang Ku not to listen to that nonsense, but then he asks the boy what he thinks about it. Wade understands and says that tomorrow he'll join his friends. Inside the Ghost Mother sect, the chained demon keeps rambling nonsense. Someone tells Butler Zhang to follow that path. A hooded man says the tiger is doing well, eating a lot, and staying strong as ever. The man asks not to be disturbed, neither him nor his son, and the bandit tells him to make himself at home. Zhang says his son worked hard and regrets that he turned into this monster. The butler's hand touches the demon's toothy face, but the father sounds insane when he says this is the only way for him to achieve immortality. It's a winter night in the mountains near Fahua Temple. Beaten people walk in a line between two hooded men. One of them gets excited at the sight of some pretty girls, but the other yells at him to stop being such an idiot. The guy laughs and asks his boss for just a moment of distraction. This so-called boss tells him to hurry, because if he messes up Ambassador Guang's plans, he's screwed. Hidden in the forest are the protagonist, his friends, and a dog. They're happy that the master lent them Black Fang, because without the dog's nose, they wouldn't have been able to find the clues Shu left in the woods. Black Fang lets out a loud bark and seems very fierce. Lu asks the good boy to be quiet, and the dog understands perfectly. Wade wonders where their fourth brother went, and the oldest says that's just like him. In the distance, our green-haired friend is ready to fire an arrow. It's launched with high speed and precision. The clueless bandit is harassing a poor girl and telling his boss not to worry. Suddenly, the arrow hits him directly, leaving a trail of light. That man is slammed into the wall with impressive force. Another sect member yells that they're under attack and calls for everyone to move. Who says that's the signal they were waiting for from Teru Shikshan. Lu yells for everyone to move and starts running. The oldest one runs so fast that leaves fly up around him. The bandits can't even see what's approaching with such speed. Our big brother stops running, and there's even steam coming off his body. But there are a lot of hooded enemies, and they're carrying blades that look very sharp. Wade is shocked and wonders if this is the strength of a warrior at the galloping horse level, who tells the boy not to stand still, because now it's their turn, and Liang Ku says he got it. The eldest hits one of the sect members, making him drop his weapon. Two more bandits come at him, ready to strike, but two arrows hit both of them in the back. Shu is on the rooftop, and Lu smiles when he sees his friend. Our green-haired guy is sharp and ready to help. Wade and Hugh fight with other hooded figures nearby. One of the bad guys says to surround the boy since spears don't work well in tight spaces, but the hero fights incredibly well and doesn't let that slide. He hits 3 bandits at once and spills a lot of red juice with his spear. Lu tells Liang Ku to grab Black Fang, find the victims, and leave, and he says he'll do just that. Now in the underground passage beneath the base, sect members are running and shouting that there are intruders, calling for direct confrontation. Lin celebrates that it's finally over and he won't suffer anymore, while another tells him to run because the invaders made it inside. But he feels guilty for everything that's happening because he hurt children the same age as his daughter. The regretful bandit can't take it anymore and says sinners can't escape their punishment. while another questions him. This man is shocked to see something coming his way. It's an attack from Lin, who says it's all the fault of Zhao Hongyuan and Zhang Shan. He says the butler is still there and that he needs to save his family, while the other lies suffering on the ground. The monster's father scolds the hooded ones for losing to just 4 disciples of Master Yang Dongshan. Zhen yells for them to release all the mountain demons and spread them throughout the area. Nervously, the sect members respond that they'll do as ordered. Our evil butler thinks this must be Zhao's fault and that he has to fix this mess soon. But he also sees this as a good opportunity. If he escapes through the secret tunnel, he still has a chance to turn the tables. At winter sunset, the 3 elder brothers are at the bandits' passage in the forest and wonder where the youngest one is, who thinks he must be helping the survivors, and Lu says they've already finished everything, so Wade should show up soon. But what worries him is the intense violence in the air. It feels too strong, like something is hiding nearby. The hooded ones are lying on the ground covered in ketchup, and there are several swords scattered around. Our boy walks through the forest with the little dog and wonders if there are still any victims nearby. He finds a strange passage and imagines it must be a hidden tunnel. Black Fang reacts, making him think someone might be inside that weird place. Wade touches the passage, and the door makes a sound as if it's about to open. Light slips in through the crack and illuminates a dark stone tunnel, but the door closes behind the protagonist before he can do anything about it. The sinister corridor ahead is lit only by a few candles on the walls. Lian Ku looks at the system and wonders what Sovereign Lord of the River and Demon Hunt mean, assuming they must be new tasks. Black Fang lets out a nervous bark upon sensing something in that place. The protagonist thinks it might be a mountain demon and can see the creature's eyes glowing in the dark. There are several demons, but they seem a bit smaller. Our boy presses his spear into the ground with force, thinking he's figured everything out. He cracks his neck, realizing he won't be getting out of there until he defeats them all. His blue energy flows through his body as Wade says he won't hesitate for a second to begin. The creatures start running, and he notices that thanks to Zed, his strength has increased a lot, and his skills have also improved in recent days. Our boy strikes with such force that he even breaks the wall and wonders how far he can go now. The system announces he gained 1 demon hunt point, and Lian Ku says there's no going easy. He takes the initiative and throws the spear, using his glowing blue energy. One of the little devils gets hit head-on. The hero continues the hunt, and now it seems he's already got 2 points. Wade shows no mercy to the demons, and his progress keeps rising more and more. Our boy's face is all covered in gooseberry juice, but he's still excited because now the second round begins. More deformed devils charge at Wade, who grips his spear and waits for the right moment. One of them falls to the ground after being skewered. Lian Ku runs toward another, even darker passage. 2 ugly ones approach with their lovely teeth. The hero grabs his spear again and strikes both at once, while the system updates the score to a total of 31. He wonders if it's finally over. But a mysterious man sneaks in and is surprised to see Lian Ku really is there. This man is Zhang Shan, and he can't believe that the orphan son of a fishmonger has come this far. The butler says the protagonist arrived just in time to receive a gift, and he's holding Lu Zhongsen. Wade is shocked to realize the poor man is the father of his elder brother Lu. Our boy tells Zhang that his friends are nearby, and this will be his end. But the villain just smiles and questions what he just heard. Suddenly, the wall behind Lian Ku explodes as a gigantic beam bursts out. It's the creepy son of the crazy butler, and the boy wonders what the hell this freak is. Zhang Shenang challenges him to fight the monster and see who's walking away from this alive. At the beginning of winter, in one of the secret bases of the Ghost Mother sect, Lu is running through the forest, and Hugh follows right behind. Shu asks the third brother if there's a reason for them to be so nervous, and he says yes, because the demons they fought barely broke through the skin barrier. And the eldest explains that he's not afraid of those demons, but of the possibility that a stronger one might go after Wade. Our boy thinks this is the most dangerous situation he's been in since reincarnating. He notices those big strong arms, that massive body of the monster, and he's sure that this demon has already surpassed the strength level of a galloping horse. A drop of sweat runs down his face as he wonders if he's really about to give up. But what a joke, he fought too hard to deserve this life. Wade grips his spear Fubo and gets ready to fight, thinking that he can't back down now. He realizes that danger is part of life, and the demon comes toward him. The boy remembers when he was sick in a wheelchair, and not even his horrible childhood was enough to break him. Lian Ku thinks he has no reason to be afraid now, and is ready for battle. Our boy dodges the demon's attacks with incredible skill, but he gets hit once. The young man stands up and uses Fubo to brace himself on the ground as he's dragged by the force of the blow. And the ugly beast doesn't stop for even a second, already winding up for another strike. Wade jumps and dodges the creature's horrific hand. Meanwhile, Zheng Shan watches and is surprised, since the boy has only trained for about 6 months. The protagonist keeps getting it his all, and the big monster approaches again. Then the father of the year yells for his son to be a good boy and finish Wade off for him. Our boy grips Fubo and moves swiftly. He manages to hit the devil in the arm while dodging yet another attack, but the brute is too big and manages to land a strike. Liang Ku is injured and still pinned against the broken wall. Zhang Xiang starts laughing like a madman and asks if he really thinks he can compare to his mother. The protagonist realizes the gap in strength between them is far too great. Suddenly, the system alerts that a fusion is available, and the boy wonders if this is just his luck. But he also smiles, thinking that maybe luck comes from strength, and then he tells it to begin the fusion. A transparent liquid forms circular waves. Wade realizes he's somewhere else and wonders where this place is. His eyes open with a yellow light, and the boy tries to understand what's happening as he can't move his body. A giant blue dragon asks the Lord of the River if he's not going to show respect, and the man looks confused. Liang Ku realizes he's become the Lord of the River, who then says that respecting sacred laws leads to one's end, and that surrender is the only option. The huge dragon seems angry as it pretends to apologize, but the Lord simply watches as the beast comes toward him, and his eyes light up as he prepares to say the name of the technique. It is called Dragon Slash of the Dragon. Back in the tunnel, Zhang Xinan keeps laughing and says the boy's skills are pathetic. He wonders what he did wrong if all he wanted was to find a way to survive. He adds that other people are born lucky, but he only has his son, so all he can do is beg. The man shouts that he fought for a long time just to become head butler, that Master Zhao is an idiot, and no one understands, and finally he turns to his son and begs him to finish off Wade. The monster gets ready to use all his strength in the final blow, but the protagonist's eyes begin to glow, and then a massive explosion happens inside the tunnel. Zhang asks what the hell that was. Liang Ku's hair comes loose and starts flowing. His eyes continue to shine. With his hair down, our boy looks like a completely different person in the middle of the chaos. Now at dawn, still in winter. Some time ago, Liang Ku asked the master how powerful the forging and transcendental rainbow states were. Yang answered that those states had never been seen, but there was a title that summed it up well. It would be the divine state, which Wade had just reached. His hand releases a kind of energy that looks like dark smoke, and then he invokes the Dragon Slash technique. Seeing the look of the whole tunnel change with the boy's fusion, Zhang Xiang wonders what all of this is. Lu's father is still on the ground when he recognizes what might be happening, but the butler decides it's just a trick and orders his deformed son to finish the job. This makes the demon charge straight toward the protagonist. Our boy spins his spear Fubo effortlessly. He and the monster become figures of light in the midst of darkness. That's when Wade vanishes, and the devil is left confused. The crazy butler laughs again, thinking the protagonist just wanted to show off, but then he's completely shocked when he notices something. The monster's arm starts turning into smoke, and his father asks what's happening. Zhang screams for his son, and the son screams back in desperation. It's almost sad how the demon calls out to his father in his final moments, and then he vanishes, leaving Zhang in shock. The man sits on the ground and laments what just happened. He's devastated when he realizes there's nothing left. Liang Ku collapses to the ground in front of the guy. Our boy even passed out after using so much energy. Zhang Xiang is furious, thinking it's all the boy's fault and that he needs to finish him off. But then another explosion happens, and the butler realizes someone is coming. The three friends arrive at the tunnel, and Lou is surprised by the existence of this secret passage, who notices that Wade is lying on the ground, and the other wonders what happened here. Sue says it must have been a serious fight, while the eldest prepares to carry the protagonist. Zheng is hiding and thinks his only option now is to escape and turn the tables. One of the brothers says they should come back later, and the man thinks this is his chance. He quietly walks toward a staircase, but someone else shows up looking for the butler. It's the remorseful bandit, asking where his wife and daughter are. The villain questions Lin Gaiyong's attitude, saying he's now the chief butler. But the man doesn't care and charges at Zheng Shang, demanding to know about his family. He shouts that no one knows anything in the middle of all this chaos, and even throws in a provocation, saying maybe the mountain demon got rid of them. That makes Lin even angrier than before. He draws his sword incredibly fast, and strikes Zheng without mercy. The repentant man says to go ahead and pay for his sins. Lin turns his back, thinking that maybe there's still a chance, and perhaps his family is alive. The Lord of the River swings his weapon. His hair flies, and smoke even comes from his eyes. Coming toward him is the great water dragon. Several droplets fall, forming small waves on the liquid. The Lord has a serious and determined look. Suddenly, Wade wakes up with a jolt. He realizes he's in a room inside Master Yang's house, figures he must have passed out, and wonders if his friends saved him. The boy remembers the reward for the demon hunt quest, and didn't even know that Zi's spirit could merge with that of a sovereign lord. Our boy carefully gets out of bed. Liang Ku grabs his spear and thinks maybe this will improve his martial arts talent. As expected, his talent has doubled and his martial arts skill has grown. He can feel the boiling point as if he's breathing, and flames emerge from Fubo's handle. His chest lights up with a glow that resembles fire, and he knows exactly what it is. With a width of 2 feet and a depth of 3 centimeters, he can now begin attempting the flesh barrier. Wade has practiced martial arts for just 2 months, and is already approaching the second barrier. This is the opportunity that Zed brought. Someone suddenly opens the door, who says he didn't expect to find the boy with so much energy, and Teksu just greets him with a casual hey. Our boy is surprised to see his friends. He greets the two, and the first says he just wants to know what happened in that tunnel. The boy only says he passed out after defeating the last demon, wanting to keep said a secret. Then the green-haired one reveals that Zhang Xiang has passed on. Liang Ku is surprised and wonders if someone had been hiding and watching everything. If that person wasn't from the Zhao mansion, then it doesn't make sense that they didn't help. Hu says he'll inform the master and tells the boy to rest, as the next plan should be a big cleanup. Su congratulates Wade on his house renovation being nearly finished. The protagonist even widens his eyes thinking about a renovated house. Now he's outside and looks surprised as he asks if this is his house. The huge space already has 2 courtyards, and someone yells that Master Liang has returned. His house has a beautiful and very large structure. Liu Quanfuck asks Wade to take a look at the place built on the foundation of 2 courtyards. Our boy asks Uncle Fuck to call him Ashu like before, since the man is older. The village chief says this house is a way to thank Liang Ku for saving everyone, and they even gathered some extra money for the boy. But Wade is humble and says he doesn't need all that. He decides that the money will pay for the construction of the house, and whatever is left will be shared with everyone. The builders are surprised to see that there's even rice, which is more expensive than meat. Everyone starts showering the generous protagonist with praise. Our hero even gets a bit shy with all of it. Wade asks how the city is doing, and Old Lai says that thanks to him, Master Yang sent 2 warriors to protect the people. Even though their faces are kind of scary, our boy imagines that if his father and the Lord saw this scene, they'd be proud. He seems happy as he decides that he's going to live his life well. Now by the riverbank at night, Liang Ku is with Immovable and Fist and realizes he'll need to buy another boat if he wants to fish again, since the other one was destroyed. Our boy places his foot near the surface and thinks that ever since he woke up, Zed has wanted to see this scene. The water lights up at his touch, and he knows he can surf the waves even down in the depth. With more glowing waves around him, Wade thinks it's all amazing. Master Zhao is on the ground asking the ambassador what they should do. The man cries and says that even his most loyal butler, Zhang Xiang, got taken out in the confrontation. And he remembers that Master Yang's friends took out over 100 mountain demons, but the ambassador, who looks more like a skeleton, mocks Zhao and kicks him hard. The bony old man complains that everything went wrong just when things were about to go their way, and asks how the fortress was discovered. Many fortresses were destroyed, but at least they still have enough material for the pills, for now. The skeleton guy orders Master Zhao to prepare the boat because they need to return to the sect immediately. He says no problem, tomorrow there will be a boat ready, and then he thanks the ambassador, who leaves. His son seems worried about his father's condition. Master Zhao says he planted that juju tree 5 years ago, but the tree never bore fruit. The man asks his son if he knows why he kept the tree alive anyway, and the boy says he doesn't know. The explanation is that even without fruit, it still has value. It attracts birds and beasts that they can eat. Zhao ends by saying that Zhang Xiang, Lin Gaiyang, and young Master Lu are like the birds and beasts, raised only to be devoured by them. Then he adds that it's just natural selection, to which his son asks if that includes Zhang Xiang as well. The boy asks his father if even the butler going to the fortress had been part of the plan. Zhao says that trees rot, and you can't count on them forever, and that the rotten tree that is the Ghost Mother sect is about to fall. Holding a box, the master tells the boy to send someone to deliver it to Liang Ku. Tonight, they'll be heading to Guangzhou, and they'll let Huang Zijun deal with the mess. Elsewhere, someone recognizes Big Brother Leon. Wade walks among a crowd and someone comments that he's handsome. A man talks about how our boy fought against dozens of mountain demons alone, and another says it was actually hundreds. The boy notices that this gossip is getting out of hand and figures Shu is the one who started it. Suddenly, Wade widens his eyes. It's the older brothers, gathered near a tree. They notice the boy's presence and ask him to check what he received from the Zhao mansion. Liang Ku is a little surprised to hear that the Zhaos sent him something. The young man holds the box and realizes it's filled with property titles and letters. These titles are worth 2,300 taels of silver and are an apology from Zhao. The other things are gifts for everyone. One of the friends reads the letter, says this guy isn't small time, and realizes the documents contain tips about Ghost Mother sect contacts and escape routes. It's likely the fortress was exposed on purpose, and that this person's schemes are very well planned. Lu says he's going to tell Master Yang everything and ask about the next steps, because he wants to wipe out all the escape routes. Now we go to a month ago. A man asks another named Liu if he's bringing food to his wife again, to which he answers yes, because he doesn't want her to go hungry. The guy comments that he's a good person, and the wife doesn't seem too happy when she says that's not the case with her husband. Liu keeps walking quickly, since he doesn't want to leave his wife and Ah Zhu hungry. He walks past many plants. He's almost at the river and can even see the boat. Liu thinks about Ah Zhu and seems to miss her. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appears with a blade. Lying on the ground, the man tries to reach the lunchbox and laments about his wife's meal, until a hand grabs the bag. Liu returns mysteriously, covered in ketchup, and still says it's time to deliver the food. He walks away as if nothing happened, but a victim is left behind, lying among the plants.
Our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye bye.